The lights are off and away they go.
Extremely loose. He's managed to hold on and he missed the complete that. He's crazy.
Side Freitas is on the grass on the infield before. He slides through. He tags Richard Eck.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in a rendition of Back Home Again in Indiana.
Back home again in Indiana, and it seems like I can see the gleaming candlelight still shining bright through the sycamores for me. The new mown hay sends all its fragrance through the fields I used to roam. When I dream about the moonlight on the Wabash, how I long for my Indiana home.
It has been deemed the greatest spectacle in racing. For over 100 years, drivers from literally all over the world have tried their hand at taming a 2.5-mile rectangular oval located in the suburb of Speedway, Indiana. It has been the site of triumph and tragedy, dynasties and revolutions, glory and failure. Few events in the world maintain the prestige, the challenge, and the fame that this race has had for its long and storied history. Today, the Pac Majors will once again hold its virtual version of this grueling contest, and once again, only one driver can come away being called the champion. You're watching the Pacific Majors Indianapolis 500, and we're bringing it to you live on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth today is Trevor Cameron, along with our IndyCar expert, James Krahula. Behind the scenes is our director, Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Also, a special thank you to Bill Zahn for joining us here for the intro. Trevor, they call it the Brickyard, and so many drivers have dreamed of being able to kiss those fabled yard of bricks at the start-finish line. What is it about this place that inspires so many to try and conquer it?
Well, you summed it up perfectly, Joe. History. Every driver wants to stand where legends have stood before them. Foyt, Unser, Andretti, Fittipaldi, Castroneves, Montoya, so many more. I mean, that yard of bricks is yet another connection to the history, as the entire track was originally paved with bricks, where the nickname, of course, the Brickyard came from. And that yard was kept intact to remember the Speedway's beginnings. But other than legacy, it is also the thrill of conquering this track, which is unique in its layout. 2.5 miles with a slight 9 degrees of banking in the 4 individual turns make up this rectangle. Each corner drives differently and is just waiting for someone to miss their lines so its walls can claim yet another driver's hopes and dreams. And even if you don't hit the wall, having to lift too much in those corners will kill your lap time, as turns 2 and 4 lead out onto a massive straight. I'm not sure if it's just me, but turn 2 has always been my Achilles heel at this place, and I don't want to think about the number of times I got tight and slammed the wall, or loose and spun down to the inside exiting that corner. But I'm sure our expert track guide driver, Brian Yazik, won't have that problem as he takes us around for a sample of one of the 200 laps these drivers will be tackling tonight.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Global Sim Racing Channel. I'm Brian Yazik. This is Indianapolis Motor Speedway and I am driving the GSRC DW12 IndyCar. Indy is a track that does not need any introduction and should be on any race fan's bucket list. Without further ado, here we go. Down the front stretch, grandstands on both sides. Very, very easy to develop tunnel vision through here. As you got buildings to the left, right, everywhere. Down into turn 1. Indy has very tight corners, so you want to take it a little wider than you think at entry, through the short chute, into turn 2. Once again, just try not to take it too wide or that car is going to push out to the fence and ruin your day. Down the long backstretch, just screaming up on turn 3 at 225 miles an hour, down into the corner, find that white line, drift it right back out, and then through the short chute back down into turn 4. Turn 4 and Turn 2 have a very easy capability of allowing you to overdrive them. So it's very crucial that you nail your line through there. Not a whole lot of room to move around, but you will see guys probably start to feather the throttle a little bit. You can go wide open for a little while. Through Turn 2 again. Don't get out too wide. That wall off of Turn 2 has claimed many, many race car drivers and legends of the sport, and it will claim you if you're not paying attention. Down into turn 3 once again. Find the white line, don't get the rumble strips. Float it back out here through the short chute, down into turn 4, and let it float out one more time down the front stretch. Once again, with the screaming virtual fans on either side of you. Without further ado, this completes your track guide around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I'm Brian Yazek. This was the GSRC DW12.
And even though this is in the virtual world, I can tell you from experience, it is terrifying trying to fly through these corners flat out, especially for the 500 miles, having attempted it and completed it myself in the past. But we have a special treat for us before we move on to some of the championship statuses. We have a front row starter here to talk to us about the upcoming race and his thoughts on it. Adam Young starting in third today. Adam, we know that the aero wash is always a worry. Is that obviously not going to be as big of a factor at the start for you being up towards the front?
Well, hopefully not. I mean, I'm going to be running a little bit more wing, to be honest with you, just, because I know that we're all going to be pretty much racing for second as long as Bud doesn't have a problem. And I'm just going to be anticipating staying, in the draft most of the time. So I'm running a little bit of wing to help counteract that aero push. But things feel really good so far, so we'll just have to see what happens when we get all 35 or 36 of us out here.
What do you think is going to be your greatest challenge to try and complete these 200 miles first before anybody else?
Well, that's actually just happened here in the last little bit. We found out that on our race setups we kind of missed a step, so we've been trying to recover here during warm-ups. So we'll have to see if we're able to get it clicked back in and synced back up. If we can do that, then I think we'll be running up toward the front. But if not, I mean, the setups could very well be our greatest challenge.
All right, and as the IndyCar usually goes, that setup typically is one of the big parts of getting the car to go fast. Thanks for talking to us, Adam. Good luck from the front row, and we wish you the best.
Hey, no problem, guys, and we'll hopefully talk to you guys after.
All right, for sure. That was Adam Young, front row starter here today for the Indy 500. And apologies, not 200 miles, 200 laps, I said a little bit earlier. Let's go to the championship status, the Drivers' Championship, the big one all the guys really, really want to win. Jason Fleischle still leading after a bad showing at the Coke 600. Excuse us, unfortunately that looks to be incorrect on the points. So I'm just going to have to read it off of a different area that we have so we don't have a graphic. 899 points. Troy Schultz is leading after Jason Fleischle had a bad showing. He is at 891 points, only 8 back. Rob Gall is going to be 40 points back at 859. David Williams, last season's champion, not doing too bad still, 4th in the championship, 832 points. And then 82 points back from the leader at 817 total. You've got Brian Barnes, always a competitor in this series, usually up there, very versatile driver. Let's see if we have the graphics for the Governor's Cup, and I believe Trevor is going to cover that.
Yeah, sure thing, Joe. And let's see. Well, the Governor's Cup in here, they have 4 clubs that are basically competing for. So it's kind of almost not quite a team and not quite a constructors, but going for a that is the Constructors' Cup I'm seeing there, not the Governor's Cup on the on the screen. We are having some issues here, people, with the graphics, but bear with us. We'll get through this. That's all fine. But the Governor's Cup is broken down by clubs, and we have Texas in the lead with 4,412 points. We have last year's champion, the 2015 champion club, Northwest, behind by 76 points. We have the West Club behind by 310 points, and we have California 727 points back. Now, moving on to that Constructors' Cup, I believe James has that for us.
I do, and these are going to be the teams we have racing here with the Pack Majors in 2016. We have TNT Racing, which is currently leading the way with 1,791 points. You have Alliance Racing, 71 points back of them, and right behind there you do have Mountain West, Dog Bear Blue, is not too far behind, 180 points back. And then riding shotgun, 202 points back in the Constructors' Championship. A lot of really fun championships we have here in the Pack Majors.
Indeed, and as always, the Pacific Majors is sponsored by Volt Vapes. If you're in the Boise, Idaho area, you can check out their physical store. But if you're not, you can check out their online store at voltvapes.com. Give them a look. Obviously, we're very grateful for all they do to help this series happen. So with about 3 minutes left of warm-up, we'll get to the qualifying once they grid up. But before that, James, what are you looking at as someone who's driven here in the IndyCar a number of times and come very close to winning? What are you looking for, or if you were in the driver's seat, what would you be looking for to get yourself up to the front and be competitive?
Well, I have a great strategy to finish second in this race. I've done it 3 times already. But the big thing is you need your car to handle very well early on in the race. But then later on, when it's go time, you need to be able to trim that car out and get it fast later on in the run. And that's going to be the big thing there, is making sure that your car still handles. But, I mean, you got to, as the race goes on, you need to definitely, again, keep trimming the car out, get it more aero, but it doesn't handle as well. And so you need to be playing with that weight jacker. You're just going to be more and more on the edge, which is, of course, when you're most tired in this event. 200 laps around here is a long, long time. This is a very big speedway. And each of these corners, it's not something simple like running at Daytona or Talladega or any of the other, or even going to Charlotte next week. Each one of these corners is very precise, very unique, even though it looks almost identical if you're looking from an aerial view. All 4 of these corners drive differently. You have a different entry point and way you get around these, especially turn 2, as Trevor was talking about earlier, is very, very tricky in how you get in and out of that corner. This is probably the most grueling 500-mile event that these guys will have this year, because it requires an extra level of concentration.
That it certainly does. It's, as I said, it's very, very difficult to get around here just from the mental exhaustion that these guys will feel. Thankfully, not as much physical exhaustion, although that will come into play because 500 miles, we're going to be looking at least a 3.5-hour race for these guys before they are done. So just about a minute left to go. And we saw some drivers trying to practice their pit entry there, Trevor. And that's the other thing I feel like will probably play a big factor in this is the pit stops. We saw that in the real world race.
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. And watching the practice here, I'm watching these guys, and I don't know if we've caught any of them on the camera here, but you're seeing a lot of the guys locking up the tires as they're trying to get into that pit entry, because you're coming at that at 200 plus miles an hour to get it down to speed and not spin it out is a big enough challenge as it is. And then you have that, of course, those exit pit lanes that you have to go through in order to actually get out onto the track. So even once you exit the pits, well, you're not going to necessarily just go right out on the track. You have to keep to those entry lanes there, and that can be challenging as it is. So it could definitely play a factor in how this all plays out.
Yes, and there was some talk pre-race that drivers do need to watch out about that pit exit, because if you exit onto the track between turns 1 and 2 and what they call the short chute, then you will be black flagged by iRacing. So you need to make sure and use those warm-up lanes all the way until the backstretch, or else you will pay dearly in the race. All right, warm-up is over. Let's go to our grid. Bud Weissert is going to be on the pole. Jason Fleischle looking to rebound after his performance in the Coke 600. He's going to be starting in second. Adam Young will be in third. Then you have James Wyckoff in fourth, Wayne Hutchison in fifth, and Brian Bennett starting in the sixth position. Blake Reynolds will start in seventh place, followed by Clark Archer in eighth. A real-world IndyCar driver with experience here, Richie Hearn, going to be starting in ninth. We'll hope that that experience will help him out today. And then rounding out the top 10, Trevor, we have Taft Baldwin.
Starting at 11th, we have David Williams, who people who follow this series know is one to definitely watch out for. In position 12, we have Drew Lalonde. Rob Gall starts in 13th position. Paul Savonik starts in 14th. Ryan Thoma in 15th. Lionel Callisto, who's going to be looking to recover from a bad Coke 600, is starting in 16th. Nick Hunt in 17th. Mark Walls in 18th. Michael Lane in 19th. And Mike Franklin starts in 20th.
21st position, we're going to have Kyle Murphy. Outside of him will be D. Palmer. You have Ethan Moore starting 23rd, and outside him, Michael Smith in 24th. Daniel Johnson in 25th, and Michael Thompson outside of him in 26th. Ray Partridge will be starting 27th. Mark Jabinski will be starting 28th. Bob Beltrami will be starting 29th, and Jimbo Pfeiffer will be starting 30th. Joe, bring us home.
Then in the 31st position, it'll be Gary LaViolette, Brian Barnes starting in 32nd. Mike Taylor will start in 33rd. Then we have a couple extra compared to what is a traditional Indy. 34th will be Andy Kennedy, and Tim Reiber will be starting in 35th. That's our field of 35 as the cars work their way around for the pace lap. Now, if you're hearing us mention a Coke 600 in the same series and wondering what is going on, well, this series, if you're new to the Pacific Majors, runs a whole slew of world events in all different cars and at all different types of tracks, all different types of racing, oval and road. So these guys put the drivers to the test to try and see how versatile they are and see who can claim the most of these big real world events put into the virtual world. Some of them slightly shortened, obviously, as we don't have a full 24 hours around places like Daytona and Spa. But as they come around turn 4, Bud Weissert is going to have control of the field once the pace car peels away, and then we're going to have 500 miles around the famed Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Pace car pulls up to the pit entry, peels off and away. Bud Weissert waiting for the green, and now he takes off and accelerates away, leaving Jason Fleischle behind. Green flag waves, and we are racing. Down into turn 1, most cars already peeling off into single file. Drivers knowing it's a long way, no need to fight. And I'm seeing Jimbo Pfeiffer in the pits. I'm not sure if he's starting from the pits or what's going on there. But we have a change for second place. Behind Weissert, it is now James Wyckoff. Fleischle moves back into third. He's just ahead of Adam Young, who has slotted down from third position down to fourth since the start. And already, Wyckoff not wanting to sit back. He is looking for the lead.
Wow, I was just about to say, Joe, these guys were going to go all in single file and just kind of run it out for a couple laps here, but Wyckoff has different ideas, and he just wanted to get to the front immediately.
And James, I wonder, as we see Bud close up on him but elect not to pass, I wonder if that comes into some of how his car is set up, just wanting to be in that clean air.
Yeah, and that could definitely have a lot to do with it, because there's definitely two different strategies you have. If you're starting, there in the back, you definitely want to have a lot of extra downforce on there. You want your car to be able to handle well in the pack. But when you're out front, you want as little drag as possible. You want full-blown speed, but you're still going to see a lot of the drafting and everything. These cars still do run a relatively high amount of downforce, so that second place car will definitely get a big tow, and you're going to see a lot of leapfrogging like what we did here in the real Indy 500 just last weekend.
A little bit in the background, you may have saw David Williams overtake Richie Hearn. That was for the 8th position. Hearn elects not to try and retake it down the backstretch, just holds position behind last year's champion. They are leading just ahead of Taft Baldwin in that red machine. So far, relatively quiet. Though we have a pass for second trying to take place. Jason Fleischle looking to the inside of Weissert. They're still side by side as they head through 2, losing time on the leader, but Jason is able to get it done. Bud not looking to sit around. That red machine looks back to the inside. They're going to swap one more time. Unfortunately, this is costing them a lot of time behind our leader. Behind them, Wayne Hutchinson just ahead of Adam Young. Young seems to be slipping back. He's now back to 5th from starting in 3rd.
And looking back, Joe, any Daniel Johnson fans may have seen him in the screenshot coming out of the pits there. I was watching the start. Looks like he passed on the inside on the initial start, so he was probably going in there to serve a black flag, so that has now put him 1 lap down.
Oof, going to be a tough race for Daniel Johnson. See if he can make that up in the pit stops or maybe during a caution period. Not impossible to come back from a lap down, just very hard.
Well, I mean, it's a long race, Joe, and you know, you never know how it's all going to play out. But, you know, the way they're running right now, I don't see any danger of a yellow flag coming out and any chances. But you never know how pit strategy is going to play out, where maybe you might want to short pit or do something different just to get off strategy.
And it's been interesting.
Go
ahead, James.
Yeah, so someone whose race that I've seen has been quite interesting so far has been Ethan Moore in the 027. We saw him fastest in practice, and we had a long practice, so definitely plenty of time for someone to outdo him if he wasn't legitimately fast. But started in 23rd, and he's been dropping back. It's I think he's running a little extra downforce than the rest of these guys right now, and they just seem to be pulling away from him down the straightaway. Very surprised to see someone with that much speed currently on dropping back this part of the race.
Yes, and still a long way for that to play itself out. Pass happening in front of him. Ray Partridge overtaking Andy Kennedy. They get that done into turn 1 and slot back into single file. And it's been interesting, James. What I was going to say earlier is that we've seen some passing, but it's very tempered. It's not really hard fighting right now. Everybody's kind of playing some give and take, it seems.
And again, that's just what Indy produces here with this current car. And so you'll see, you're going to get that draft, and you're gonna pass him going into turn 1. Definitely in your best interest to just let the guy go and let them have the position going into the turn, because you're probably going to get it going back down the other straightaway, or at least the next lap. So it's kind of, again, that's the only Darrell Waltrip term that I like, but that's a co-opetition, and you are going to work with your competitors, especially early on, because you can't avoid the draft. It's something you have to live with. This is not NASCAR-style drafting. This is the most unique set of drafting that you're going to have in all of auto racing, but it's something these guys have to deal with.
Speaking of drafting, right now we're on board with Fleischle, drafting on Wyckoff. Fleischle has led the championship points for much of this season, and a bad finish last round, as we mentioned, has set him back. He's already eyeing to see what he can do to try and regain that points lead. But at this point, not quite challenging Wyckoff, pulling up into the draft and then letting off as they come into turn 3.
And Joe, I was actually watching back a little bit further, around 6th position, and Bryde Bennett looked like he, about 2 laps ago, looks like he kind of clipped the apron just a little bit.
We have a spinner off of turn 4, David Williams. A little bit of contact on that inside wall.
No caution. He's off the racing line. Did he touch the wall at all?
Yeah, I believe he did get that inside wall just a little bit.
Oof. Let's watch on the replay to see. Yeah, looks like just a little bit of a touch there on my screen. And that came from the exit. Yeah, we couldn't really see from that angle, but if we watch from above, it looks like that was on the exit of turn 4. And is that common, James? Is that something these guys are going to experience a lot in these weather conditions?
Yeah, we have another person around, Paul Slavonic, in the exit of turn 3.
Let's see if we can watch what happened to Slavonic here. He was very slow going in, and then was very high up, way out of the line, and wow, he had cars splitting him on either side. I wonder if we could, let's see, who just nearly misses him there. I think that's Lionel Callisto. I want to get an onboard of that. Wow. You don't get much more lucky than that. Let's see what it's like on the roll hoop of Callisto. Because you do not have much time, James, to react in these cars.
No, absolutely. And what you were just about to ask me is this is definitely something these guys are going to have to be dealing with. For those that are not familiar with the DW12, one thing that's really important in the Indy cars is the weight jacker, because as you lose fuel, the back of the car gets really, really light, and you lose. I don't know if it's downforce, but the car definitely does not handle well. You definitely see it get loose, and what we saw the lap before, and then again there with that latest incident. This is just cars that are getting loose, and you have to stay up on top of that weight jacker, so your car is just stays tighter throughout the run. Because when you burn off that fuel, the car definitely gets very ill handling. So you need to be up on top of those in-car adjustments.
Very much so. Now, we are seeing our first pit stops here under our first caution, just over 10 laps in. But I would like to note, I went back and investigated a little more to see why, not Callisto, but Slavonic was so slow, and it was involved with Callisto. He got a little low in turn 2, a little loose actually, came back up the track, and actually knocked Slavonic into the wall. So Slavonic had damage. He was going slow down the backstretch because of that, and then obviously nearly hit Callisto again from the results of that, and that explains why his car got so loose on that outside lane. We see cars exiting out of the pits now, and let's see, I was trying to see who our winner was. Was that Wyckoff, the first out?
Yeah, I believe it was Bud who actually beat Wyckoff out by the looks of it.
Yeah, but Wyckoff is on the radio right now saying that he has some type of black flag, and he's petitioning to the stewards to try and get that cleared right now. We'll see if he's going to have to come in for a pit stop here when we go back green.
No, I think I saw Bud and James side by side in the exit lane as they were coming out of pit road there. I wonder if there was some sort of confusion about position, or maybe one of them sped trying to get past the other one, maybe.
And it sounds like they're hearing he's going to have to serve the black flag. Yeah, that was my immediate thought, is maybe he just accidentally sped in the pits a little bit, in which case the marshals are going to take no mercy on that one.
So, that'll teach me for trying to tell a story about poor Brian Bennett. Apparently, as soon as I tell a minor story, major things start happening out on the track as people are spinning off. But just to kind of get back to that, Brian Bennett actually got a little loose, touched the wall a little bit. Looked like he crinkled in the right rear a little bit, but when everybody came into pit, he did not. So the damage is obviously not affecting his car, and he's up into third now. Interesting
call from him not to come in and get that fixed, though. Of course, he can't see that, so...
Yeah, I mean, I would think, it just even a little bit of bent, metal around your wing or anything that's aero dependent, I would think would affect the handling of the car, but apparently he decided it wasn't enough to warrant losing the track position.
Or he probably just doesn't know about it, because it's a big effect in the Indy car, but there are also some things with this car that doesn't matter if it's damaged, it's just not going to be getting fixed. So, the rear pod behind the wheels, and also that wing there on the left and right side behind the front wheel, if those get bent, you're staying with them the entire time. They will replace the front wing on here, and they will replace the rear wing, but that's about it.
And that brings up an interesting point, because we mentioned maybe he can't even see that he has the damage, and that's that those guys out there with a spotter, someone or a crew chief, have an edge over anybody else who is just running solo. It looks like the lights are off on the pace car. Jason Fleischle, who elected not to pit, is going to lead the way.
Looks like our top 6 did not pit, so this should be interesting to see how the different weights go as the pace car pulls off.
Your order as they come back to green will be Fleischle, Hutchison, Bennett, Hearn, Callisto, and Partridge for the top 6 that did not pit. Let's see how that plays into strategy as now they take to the green and Fleischle accelerates away. Down into turn 1, he's got a good jump. Behind him, Hutchison has Bennett very close behind. No pass between them, though.
That was an excellent jump by Fleischle. He just left the field in his dust when the green flag came out.
Certainly going to help him. We'll see if he's able to break the draft. Unfortunately, I don't think he's quite far enough away. Only 14 laps in. We're going to tick off to lap 15 here and one more corner. Still many to go here in this 500-mile race here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. Oh, and there goes Wyckoff to serve his black flag. That has got to hurt.
He won't lose a lap though, because I believe it's just a drive-through penalty. So you don't lose a lap here.
And Williams is coming in. This is unusual. Did Williams get a black flag as well? Interesting. I wonder if maybe this is a TNT team call to give him a drafting partner. Meanwhile, I saw that Richie Hearn overtook Ryan Bennett. They must have swapped positions and then swapped back. That was for 4th and 3rd.
And I watched David Williams, and I don't think it's a team thing because he actually did come to a stop in his pit stall, so he wouldn't have bothered. He would have just come down pit road, but he looked like he was serving a penalty of some sort.
We'll have to investigate and see what was going on with that. In fact, we still don't quite know what the penalty for Wyckoff was for. In fact, I'm not sure that he knows because there was some talk over the radio that he said it didn't tell him what the black flag was for.
And Williams has slotted in right behind our leader, or more correctly, right in front of second place. So he did lose a lap, but he has the leader in sight, while Wyckoff did get a fair bit ahead and has at least a little bit of room.
You know, that sounds like something that I would say if I had a black flag. Well, I don't know what it's making me do, so it's obviously it's on iRacing's side and not mine. But regardless, you got to make that black flag pit stop anyway.
Is that a little bit of gamesmanship going on there, James? I don't know what the charge was, officer. I really don't know.
Yeah, just don't start that conversation out with Ossifer. I did not know what I was doing wrong.
We ride on board with Richie Hearn trying to chase down Hutchison. Oh, and camera goes a little zoomed in there.
Apparently the camera has fallen off its moorings.
Its mount, yeah. Quite a pack back here we've got from about 2nd place on down to, gosh, what is that, 7th or 8th? Whoa, what a big moment there for Bennett. Has to get out of it to keep from going into the wall. Checks up. Thankfully, Lionel Callisto saw it coming and does not get into the back of him. These guys playing nicely right now, but still, it's a long ways to go. Nobody's really looking to try and make huge moves, make daring moves, as Lionel Callisto closes up on the back of Bennett and lifts. I tell you what, James, I feel like some of the real-world drivers could have learned a few lessons about patience from these guys.
Well, and normally that's backwards. We need to steal patience for the other. Oh, we have an accident. Paul Slavonic is rounded hard into turn 1.
Again. And that must have involved some of the damage that he had before, maybe, that ill handling. No, it did not, actually. We're going to see on the replay Ethan Moore involved in it. Both cars taking huge damage. Let's watch down into turn 1. Just gets a little close to the rear and clips him, and they both go around straight to the scene of the accident. Now, the good news is, Trevor, that they do have a fast repair in this series.
Well, and these guys aren't going to want to use it on lap 19 of this race, but they're not going to have any choice. Those cars are severely damaged. And you know who else is going to love this is James Wyckoff, because he stayed on the lead lap, and he will get to come around to the back of the field now.
Yeah, Ethan Moore there with very hard contact as well. He's going to have to take that quick repair also.
And like Trevor said, it's going to take one bullet out of the chamber for them, unfortunately. Make it much more difficult, but not impossible to win. We saw that with Smitty, Michael Smith, that he won after taking a free repair in long oval events before. In fact, I think one of them was the Coke 600 last year. Now, here's the question. Is David Williams going to get a chance to get his lap back? Is Jason Fleischle going to come in for a pit here 20 laps in? We're about 2/3 way through a fuel stint.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that that those guys who did not pit last time are going to have to come down because, like I said, 2/3 through a fuel stint, I don't think you're going to want to risk that because you can't count on that yellow coming out in the next 10 laps.
And Fleischle looks like he's heading in. Yes, he is. I was waiting to see if we had any NASCAR-style games going on with him deciding to duck out at the last second. But David Williams does stay out as expected. He's going to get that lap back, get the wave around. Unfortunately, he will be off sequence unless he gets lucky and gets a caution very quickly.
But I mean, this early in the race, you can afford to take that chance, get that lap back, and if it doesn't work out this time, you know what? Just wait for it and do it a little bit later type thing. So no harm, no foul in trying for sure.
Quite a few drivers in and out for their stop. And apologies, I was listening for just a moment to the radio chatter between the drivers explaining what's going on with the wave around. And this is one of those weird things that comes out of this series, James, is that you have guys that aren't experienced with the oval racing and need to kind of understand the processes of things.
Yeah, because this is the Pacific Majors. They're their own sanctioning body, so they can do things, how they please. So definitely a lot that you need to keep up with here. And especially with the wave arounds and how they want to do that, it could be a lot to handle for sure if you didn't already have enough on your mind.
Yeah, really. Trying to attempt a 500-mile race of this sort of caliber and trying to learn oval rules. But thankfully, they have had 2 oval races before this one. This is the 3rd of the year. So most of these guys should, by this point, start to get a feel for how this all will work out. Drivers who did not pit, but are still out. Actually, I see that Bud Weissert has 2 stops, though. Or no, that's laps led, excuse me. No, he only has pitted once. So Bud stayed out this time. He's going to take the green in the lead. Adam Young as well stayed out. He's going to be in second, and Clark Archer will start on the podium position once we go back to green.
Yeah, and you know what, Joe, you did mention that some of these guys are going to have some experience with the oval racing, and that's true, but I mean, consider that it was just 2 weeks ago that these guys were indeed on an oval in the NASCAR Sprint Cup car, which is a very, very different beast than this when it comes to handling and aerodynamics and how you're going to handle corners. So they're going to have the oval experience, but going from the heavy Sprint stock car to these guys, that's a bit of a jump.
Absolutely. These guys do everything from those Gen 6 cars that you mentioned, the DW12s. They are going to have a race in the F1 car. They're going to have a race in the super late model at Oxford Speedway. Very short oval, very different oval racing from this style. So these guys are really going to have to test their mettle, see what they can do, and just about every type of car you can imagine, GT3 car as well. And I think a V8 supercar at the end of the year.
And just a quick update on the race. Paul Slavonic will have to retire. He did use his fast repair in the previous incident that he had.
A very early end for Paul Slavonic to go and hit the showers. He will be 35th at the end of this race. And our director is saying that he hopes that the V8 supercars are not at Bathurst, and unfortunately, I hate to inform him, they are in fact at Bathurst.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna take the V8 cars out, you know where you're going. So.
Oh yes, it's got to be there of all places. There's a couple tracks that they raced in real life. They have Oran Park that the V8 supercars did. They have Phillip Island. But if you're going to have any of them, you got to have Bathurst. But today we have Indianapolis, and the pace car peels off as Bud Weissert has control and accelerates away on the restart. Green flag flies. Adam Young did not get a good start at all as Clark Archer takes a little bit of a look, but there's nothing doing down into turn 1 as he stays in line. Oh, and a big moment for Adam Young, but he holds it together. I don't know how he kept that car from spinning.
No, he hit the apron there, and that was... Oh, yellow on the track.
Let's see if I can figure out who that... Oh, Brian Barnes is involved. Looks like Gary LaViolette. It's at the back of the field. And Adam Young gets on the radio and says, "Don't ask me how I held on to that. And it looks like a very similar incident with Gary LaViolette. A lot of cars scattering, and you're going to see Brian Barnes trying to avoid him, and unfortunately it looks like Gary was starting to accelerate away and did not know that Brian was coming. But if we go to Gary's replay here, you'll see what happens. It's very similar to Adam Young's incident, just clipping that rumble strip on the inside. Very hard hit. Was not able to save it. In fact, I think did he get clipped by Drew Lalonde, it looks like possibly had a little bit of contact with him. We're going to look at it from above. It was a glancing blow if Drew did hit him. It's a good thing this is virtual because that was an incredible hit into the wall. Well, with that, we're going to take a brief break here on the Global Sim Racing channel from the Volt Vape Pacific Majors Indianapolis 500. 24 laps into this thing. We're on a third caution. Still a long way to go. Still a lot to see. Stick with us. Welcome back to the Global Sim Racing channel here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We're watching the Pacific Majors Indy 500. Bud Weissert is leading the way with 26 laps in. Clark Archer is in second, and Taft Baldwin is in third. We are under caution, our third caution of the day, actually fourth caution, I believe. And we are getting ready to go green now as the pace car gets ready to peel off of turn 4 and into the pits. They give Bud control once again, and he accelerates away cleanly, leaves Clark Archer behind. Let's see if we can get back to green, get some laps in. Adam Young in that fourth position after a scary moment on the last restart. This time, he makes sure and stays off those rumble strips, James.
Yeah, the rumble strips, that's something you do not want to touch with these cars. You can maybe get away with it in the stock cars, but definitely not in the Indy car. You definitely do want to get your left sides down onto that apron below that white line, but it's a very low area that you want to hit, because you don't want to go down, because when you hit that curbing, it'll definitely upset the car.
And look at this stack up for the top 4 as Young tries to move to the inside of Baldwin, and he takes that third place away. Washes a little bit wide though. No over-under.
Yeah, and just as we were actually talking about that, Clark Archer actually did hit those rumble strips a little bit and had a bit of a moment. Not as much as Young had earlier, but a little bit of one. But you're absolutely right, James. You want to get like right down and hit that apex perfectly in order to get that line out, or you're going to wash out in the short shoot and hit that wall there.
Smitty is seeing some action on screen there, and a little bit of a battle with Mark Chubinski. This is for that 7th position. Just ahead of them, Ryan Toma. Smitty very experienced on the ovals. He's teammates with Jason Fleischle, who has led the way earlier on in this race, though he has slipped down the order due to pit stops. A number of these guys on teams, and that has got to be a big help, I imagine, James, especially in the IndyCar, which is so setup dependent, to be able to have a few guys to trade those around with.
Oh yeah, because the setup, especially for qualifying here, when they turn on the turbo boost, and then also when you come out here and during race trim, there's a lot of things, and there's a lot going on with these cars. They're definitely a lot more sensitive than some of the other vehicles out here on the iRacing service. So there's a lot you can do during the race as well. So aerodynamically, again, we talked about the weight jacker, which is going to be huge in this race. You can also play with your anti-roll bar as well. These are all things that these guys are going to have to adapt throughout the race and even throughout the run as well.
Now, a significant development, David Williams blinked out for a long time, and I think that's drivers behind him that we can hear, yeah, Mike Franklin getting on the radio letting him know that he disappeared. And actually he's lost the lap, so Williams now is a lap down because he didn't register. Now, for our viewers not used to sim racing, Trevor, what exactly, can you explain what's going on with him disappearing?
Yeah, I mean, that has to do with his connection to the internet, and basically what happens is his quality went right down, which means his connection to the server went really bad for a moment. And the problem is with iRacing that even though you think you're out there racing, you can't see the other cars. If you are off the screen while you pass the start-finish line, it will not class that lap. So that's why he's now a lap down, because he was basically invisible when he went across start-finish line, so the server didn't know that he actually had completed a lap.
Andy Kennedy is heading into the pits. He brushed the wall in the short shoot between 1 and 2. It looks like he's going to try and get some repairs. He was way off the pace as he comes to a stop in his stall, and he misses it, actually, just to add insult to injury. Meanwhile, battle for P3 going on. We've got Adam Young and Taft Baldwin still in a battle. We saw Adam make the overtake on the restart. Must have lost that position a little bit earlier and has taken it back. It is a close fight up front, only 2/10 between first and second.
Oh, Joe, I just had a laughing fit here. I don't know if the director could have caught it, but Tim Reiber, we were talking about quality issues, and his quality has gone way down right now, and I looked at his on the screen and it looked like he was driving through the grandstands. So,
and unfortunately, we can't even show him on screen because our director can't select him. But yeah, I just went and looked, and Reiber is not looking good. I think he's tried to separate himself from everyone, thankfully, and make sure that he doesn't accidentally wreck someone. But we got a pass from the lead. Bud Weissert finally gives it away to Clark Archer, who is going to lead his first laps of the race. In fact, Bud Weissert has led the most so far at 15.
now, James, you were talking about the weight jacker before when it came to as your fuel was burning off. Now, this is an interesting moment here with Bud being in second position. He's been in the lead for a big part of this race. That weight jacker also plays a factor in how you have the downforce on the front or the back of the car. So these drivers are going to be adjusting it depending on if they have a car ahead of them, a car behind them, to make sure that they have the downforce right where they need it. So he's going to have to make an adjustment from being out in the clean air before.
Yes, and I mean, even at different ends of the speedway, you'll see guys will be messing with the weight jacker different in 1 and 2, and then again in 3 and 4. You'll see that a lot more when we have a little bit more wind. We do only have 3 mile per hour wind out here tonight, so not a whole lot to worry about there. But yeah, you'll see people even down the straightaway switching it up for different ends of the track as well. So a lot to definitely keep up to date on. And definitely when you have a car in front of you, that will definitely affect the handling, and you will be changing that weight jacker and moving around with the other things there in the cockpit.
We complete lap 35. Now on to 36 as we watch Rob Gall in the thick of a big pack here. Currently running in 7th place, running for the West Club. You can see just ahead of Smitty, as we like to call him. Michael Smith running for California. Not close enough right now to make any sort of pass. However, we did have a pass for 4th place above these guys. Taft Baldwin just gave it up to Ryan Toma.
Speaking of Ryan Toma, I like that kind of classic Haviline paint scheme he's got going on that car. Some of my trading paints is up to date.
Nice little nod to old Newman Haas, I believe. Actually, not quite the Newman Haas that I was thinking of. As I look on the screen now, slightly different. But it does, actually, I think maybe it is, because it does have that Kmart sponsor on there. So maybe he is making a reference to those early 90s paint schemes. Right now, though, he is stalking Adam Young. Toma looking to put himself into a podium position.
Oh, it takes a little glance just to make him know that he's there and thinking about the move.
And
well, sometimes that'll work.
Yeah, just gotta unnerve people. He's not out of the weeds though, because he's got Taft Baldwin still right behind him. Taft could take that position back. These guys clearly starting to get into a rhythm now, as everybody finds their own little piece of track, their own little battle, and Adam Young has his right now as he overtakes Bud Weissert down the front stretch into turn 1. He's going to have the inside, and he gets it clean.
That was a nice job. I mean, because once you we've talked about how line dependent this track can be, and Bud had to go off of his line in order to let him through on the inside and still make that corner. That can be so challenging. It's so easy to get a little bit high off the groove, not bleed off enough speed, and just end up in the wall when you're passed like that. So that's a nice bit of driving by those guys.
And you know, the other thing to consider with that too is if you're side by side coming down into that turn 1. Brian talked about it on the lap guide. Even though it's the same width as much of the rest of the track, James, it feels so much more narrow going into that turn 1.
Yes, the grandstands, I think that's just an optical illusion, but it definitely, turn 1 feels probably the most narrow of any place else in the racetrack, even though, again, as you said, it's just about as wide as everyone else out there. But also, you can run side by side here, but it's not the best track for that also, and so you definitely need to tiptoe and really trust the guy that you're running side by side with if you're going to try something like that.
A little bit farther back in the field, we see a battle for 15th. Mike Taylor ahead of Bennett, Hearn, and Reynolds. These guys all very close. Hearn closing in on the back of Bennett, but backing out of it. Now we saw something interesting from Hearn at the Coke 600 showing his oval prowess. He was very, very lenient. He was very lenient on the opening, I want to say 500 miles, and then last 100 miles he really kicked it in and started to be more aggressive, fighting for position, and was up for the win for much of the race. Didn't quite take it home though. And I feel like we're seeing that here today again with him slipping back in the field, really not making any aggressive moves. You have to remember that Richie Hearn, this is the Richie Hearn who was an IndyCar driver. He was Rookie of the Year at the Indy 500 in his rookie season in the IRL, so he knows how to drive around here.
And that plays into what you were just talking about, Joe. It's not just a matter of trying to get around here, knowing how to get around here. It's also realizing this is a 200-lap, 500-mile race. You've got to pick your moves. As he's looking like he was going to go on Bennett, but decided against it. But patience is the name of the game in a race this long.
A lot of drivers displaying it right now. Interestingly, I'm taking a glance back up at the timing on the lead, and Clark Archer has stretched it out to over a second ahead of Adam Young. Now, is that enough to break the draft, James, or is Young still able to try and peel him in?
Oh, you kind of get to that certain point. I think that about a second out, I think that might be officially broken at that point, though. It just depends on how well the car is handling as well. So if the 21 catches him, it's going to be because he has a better car, not because he's hiding there in the draft.
We rode on board a bit with Clark Archer, and it gives you an idea of, at these speeds, what the gaps can be like at just a second. These guys going 220 through the turns, up to 230 down at the end of the straight. And it is a huge gap when you get to about a second apart. Young is able to close in about 2/10, so he has regained a little bit of ground. Meanwhile, I saw that Michael Smith gave up a spot to James Wyckoff. Wyckoff trying to come back after that penalty, and what a job he's doing. He's up to 7th.
Yeah, there's probably going to be a lot of people out there in the field who are not happy that he got his lap back, because we know how fast he is as we watched the beginning of the race when he rocketed to the lead. So
absolutely, and I'm thinking James Wyckoff is going to be the Montoya of this race potentially. Wonder if he
which year, Joe?
Yeah, exactly. 2015, I'm thinking of is what I'm referring to.
Yes, that was a great race where Montoya had problems early on in that race, and then managed to come back from that. Because if you're going to have problems, I mean, it sounds cliche, but it's absolutely true. If you're going to have problems in a race this length, you have them early, and then you have a lot of time to recover from them.
And with oval racing, you've got those cautions to help bring you back into things. I think that's what happened with James Wyckoff. He had a couple since then to bunch everybody up, give him some chance to make some overtakes, and that TNT machine is back up in the top 10 and threatening. "46 laps in, we are almost a quarter of the way through this race. Other than a bit of yellow fever at the start, James, it seems like they've really sorted things out, knocking on wood for that commentator's curse, but it's starting to fly by.
Yeah, and these guys will get strung out a little bit, even though that you'll see multiple packs of cars out here running, but they do have a decent amount of space between them, and you can, especially in the middle part of the race, it's very easy to just, as we see, Bud Weissert will be coming in this time by. But you will see these guys get kind of spread out and try and get through the middle part of this race, because it is a long one.
This will be the second stop for Bud. He took one, I believe, in the first caution. So he's been out there for, I think, the extent of what his fuel can do as he gets it woed up.
That was a nice job. He was right on the button when he got 10 to 16 miles an hour. So that was a nice job with entry like that.
And he's the only one to come in, interestingly.
Yeah, we'll see what's going on. I believe his crew chief, Keith Stone, has an interesting strategy for Mr. Budweiser there in that Budweiser machine.
Oof. And slides it into the stall. We thought we heard there might be a crash going on. Number 62 is heading in as well. Weissert is in and out. Now, did he take tires? I'm not sure if I saw him go up on the jacks.
Looks like he did. I mean, I wouldn't have. Yeah, he definitely went up on.
Yeah,
the
I was gonna say I would say that's a very strange call for him not to take tires.
I was gonna say this isn't stock car anymore, Joe.
No. And Bud has caused an avalanche on the pit lane because everybody is in. Clark Archer is in. We've got James Wyckoff in. Adam Young is in. Now you can see them all on pit lane. Clark Archer first out. Adam Young coming out, but he's going to have to fight Ryan Toma for it. Toma beats him out. A little bit of a stack up there at the pit exit as Jabinski has to slow up behind Young. Same thing with Wyckoff. Cars jockeying for position. Again, they cannot get onto the oval until the backstretch. And look at this. Here comes Jabinski around the outside of Young. A much better exit off of that pit lane. Gives them an advantage.
Now, Joe, I know that you did mention that they do have to exit out of turn 2. Now, is the race rules saying that you can't even dip your tires up above into oval 1 and 2? Because if you can, in that short shoot, you can get a much better run through that second dogleg access road there out of pit road. So is that a just going by iRacing rules here, or do they have a rule saying you have to stay below that white line until you exit the pits?
Got a battle going on screen right now. Very close between Wyckoff and Jabinski, and they managed to keep it out of the wall side by side. But yes, to answer your question, they do have a gentleman's rule for the league that they are not allowed to go outside that white line during the race. Now, iRacing won't black flag them for that, obviously, as you mentioned, but they have asked guys to not dip above just to keep things from getting a little crazy in case anybody has to go low through there while racing. Now, Adam Young just overtook Taft Baldwin, and that was for position. In fact, things are very jumbled up now that pit stops have happened under green. And there you see Baldwin going to take the position right back down the backstretch.
Yeah, I was going to say, Joe, at this point in time, at any point in this track, somebody's passing somebody because people are either coming into the pits or getting out of the pits or already on track, and that's resulting in a lot of very different speeds out on the track, which is causing a lot of passing.
Current leader Jason Fleischle heads into the pits. He's going to take his second stop. Lionel Kalisto stays out, still needs to make his second stop. See, the highest person to take 2 stops right now is Blake Reynolds. He is currently scored in 3rd. And I'm expecting Blake actually should inherit the lead once Bennett and Kalisto come in for their stop. In fact, he's going to overtake Bennett on track before the stop, potentially here. Takes a little bit of a look, gets out of it through turn 4. Bennett stays out, though. So does Kalisto.
Yeah, and speaking of Kalisto, Joe, I mean, you remember from the Coke 600, he had definitely looked like he had the car to beat that night for the early part of that race, and then ran into some bad luck and unfortunately didn't get the position that his speed, or the finish that his speed looked like he deserved. So he's probably looking for a little bit of redemption tonight. So good to see him out in front this week after a bit of a disappointing Coke 600.
Seemed like there was a lot of drivers that could label their Coke 600 disappointing. There was a number of DNFs, which is difficult, and as long as that race is, that's not too unexpected. But there were many of the top drivers. Meanwhile, Reynolds has now finally overtaken Bennett. He is in P2. There's only lapped cars between himself and the race leader, and he should inherit that race lead soon, as we expect Kalisto to come in for his stop in the next few laps.
Looking back at the timing and scoring, looks like it was lap 26 of the last time that Kalisto was in, so that would put him right on the window right now.
Palmer gets on the radio saying he is heading in. Kalisto is in. That old Gilles de Ferran scheme on his car. As he gets it woed up to the pit limiter. And Blake Reynolds is now your race leader. Quite a bit of confusion on the order of everybody, as we're still waiting for all the pit stops to try and cycle through. I see that Ray Partridge in second has not taken his second stop yet. Weirdly, in third place, I'm seeing Mark Walls is having 6 stops already. Is that correct? So I'm wondering if Mark just came in every single caution top up.
Perhaps, and Blake Reynolds, our leader, is in, and the caution comes out.
And I think Adam Young may have been involved in it, and he is! Oh. And that involved Taft Baldwin. Oh, wow, this is a hard hit. We're going to see it here on the replay coming into... is this 1, actually? Yeah, this is turn 1. Just that little bit of a tip. And these cars are so on the edge, it just went screaming towards the outside. We're going to watch from the rear wing of Adam Young. There's just no time to save this. Disappointing to see, but you know, James, I feel like Smitty could probably attest to Adam about the curse of a pre-race interview or in-race reporter for GSRC not always turning out so well for drivers.
That's exactly why I just stopped picking picks for the race and everything like that. I know, especially the bootleg guys on Saturday night, they don't want me saying any of their names before the race. So, yeah, that's definitely a tough break there. But he should still have his one fast repair still, shouldn't he?
Yeah, I don't believe he's had any trouble before, at least not that we saw it. As long as he didn't have minor damage and forgot to uncheck his free repair. He's still circling around. He's a lap down, though. So he's going to have to get that back regardless of if he's got that free repair or not. Meanwhile, we have cars heading into the pits now. And with a few cars still being a little bit off sequence. Let's see, we only have about half a dozen off the lead lap. So most everybody seems to manage to have gotten their pit stops in, and we don't have cars trapped a lap down.
Yeah, that was Blake Reynolds, I think, was the end of that cycle. So we thankfully didn't have that situation where we had half the field trapped a lap down. So, but definitely some guys coming in pitting, and wow, look at the damage on that car as he tries to wheel it back to pit lane there. That's some heavy damage. That's actually right in front of Blake Reynolds, who we were just watching come in the pits, teammate, or at least I assume so by the paint schemes.
Yep, that would be the Ride and Shotgun team. They are definitely oval guys with a lot of experience. I'm not sure if they're more NASCAR, though, if they have much experience with the Indy cars. They've certainly been showing well between Reynolds and Adam Young. Now, we should have the order here, I believe. Reynolds is currently leading. Ryan Toma is in second. Ray Partridge third. Jason Fleischle cycled his way back up. He is now in fourth. And James Wyckoff as well cracked the top 5.
And hearing from race control that David Williams is being given a wave around the pace car to get his lap back that he lost while he had that disconnection problem. So I'm not sure if that puts him on the lead lap or down to just 1 lap down. We'll have to wait until the timing and scoring catches up on us there, because I think he lost 2 laps through that entire excursion.
Yeah, it looks like he's 1 lap down now. And Adam Young heads off into the pits now to take his stop. Hopefully get a free repair. Let's keep an eye on that. See if that car pops back to normal. lot of damage on that car.
That is some skillful steering there, as our in-car shot shows. He is having to turn directly to the left to keep it going straight. That is what we call our toe being slightly out.
I was going to say, I don't think that's a normal offset, for even though oval cars sometimes will have that. And yes, he's got a new car. So Adam Young has to get his lap back, but he should still be in this thing.
Also reminds me of Formula E. Come down, get a new car, head back out on your way.
I bet. I was going to say, watching Formula E pit stops is one of the most amazing things in racing, as far as I'm concerned. Watching those guys come in, just hop out of the car, hop in the new car. Like that is some, if you have not watched Formula E racing, they put all the races up on YouTube. You should definitely check it out because it is a lot of fun to watch those guys.
Oh, absolutely.
Completely agree. Formula E is a very, very interesting sport, and I really appreciate what they are trying to accomplish with that racing series, and it's going to be very interesting going forward, too. And plus, the racing's pretty good, too. It's not just the pit stops.
No, but that's always my favorite part. And it's that thing of, hey, don't damage your car beforehand. Sure, you got a new car, but if you're not quite to halfway, well, you're just not going to make it because there's not enough battery in your new car. So.
Yeah, slightly different than here. Pace lights are off, so we are going to go back to green. As we said, Reynolds going to lead the way. Toma's going to be right behind him. Ray Partridge in third, Fleischle fourth, and Wyckoff in fifth. Now, have we seen Blake Reynolds lead? He's led 2 laps according to this.
Yeah, he did, and he benefited the most from that yellow, the fact that he came in just as the yellow came out, so he got his pit stop done, got the lead back as the green flag flies, and he heads out ahead of the pack, so he definitely benefit from that yellow flag hugely.
Beautiful timing, as we've seen with endurance racing and oval racing. A lot of time luck comes into it, but already Ryan Toma closes up on the back of that riding shotgun DW12. Is he going to attempt to pass for the lead? He is. Toma tucks to the inside, and Toma now is going to be your leader. Jason Fleischle as well has got a great run. Is he going to get all the way up to P2? He sticks his nose in, but he starts to back out of it. Tense moments here at the top of the pack. James Wyckoff also taking a look, trying to get himself up into third place. Just has a wild moment, trying to save it as he touches the rumble strips, and I think Mark Jabinski got a little bit of the wall trying to stay away from him.
As Blake Reynolds goes back around Ryan Toma and back out into the lead. Some great back and forth racing. Apparently about a quarter of the way through the races when you start going for it by the looks of these guys.
Yeah, a little bit early, I think, and Toma wants it back. He gets a run, looks to the inside. Here comes Jason Fleischle once more. This time he doesn't make a marginal move. He waits behind, sees what these guys are doing. Fleischle in what we like to call the popcorn position. Just sit back and watch the show.
See, Joe, I'm actually surprised. Like, I kind of expected this to be happening already because you get that run on these guys and, you feel like you're 10 miles an hour faster, so it's hard not to stick your nose in there when you get that run off that draft. So I was surprised we didn't see this a little bit earlier, but looks like these guys are making those runs and going for the passes now.
And, I think that's just a testament to the quality of drivers in this league. They only have 4 clubs, and yet you get the best of the best in those clubs coming out to drive. And those guys know that you can't win the race this early on. So we've seen a lot of clever and very smart driving in just about every style of racing these guys have done in the couple years that we've covered this series. Let's jump back to P9 here as we've got a little bit of a battle between Brian Bennett and Rob Gall. Gall to the inside, still side by side through one. And they managed to make it work as Bennett backs out of it. Bennett, however, is going to come right back and take it again.
Yeah, and that's as he goes back on the inside there. That's a great turn of phrase to use there, Joe. Is that they made it work, and that's with these style of racing and the way that they are so aero dependent, and how you can have aero wash and have all those issues. You kind of have to work together because if you push the issue too much, you're both going to crash. So there has to be a lot of give and take in this style of racing, or else you're just going to ruin each other's day.
This is where I appreciate having 2 experienced DW12 drivers here with me in the booth, almost like I have Cheever and Goodyear, except the second place finisher isn't Goodyear all the time, the Canadian.
I'd like to be Paul Tracy. Thank you very much.
You need to get a little bit more opinionated for that, I think.
Jed, put your finger there on the bleep button. We got Paul Tracy up in the booth.
Now Jason Fleischle has a run for P2. He's on the inside of Reynolds, and he takes it into turn 1. Move Fleischle. Oh, and a big moment for Reynolds trying to hold on to it in the arrow wash, keep it out of the wall. Oh, and did Wyckoff just brush the wall? Oof,
Yeah, it looks like he hit the
blow.
Looks like he hit the rumble strips, and yeah, he definitely made contact. I don't know how much damage he has, but there was definitely contact with that wall.
TNT machine continues on. He's not dropping off, so it seems like he's good enough.
Well, apparently he's not concerned as he's taking a look to the inside of Reynolds, but decides to back out of it. But whatever damage it is, I guess it's not affecting the handling of the car.
Unfazed is what James Wyckoff is at this point, still battling, looking to see if he can get into a podium position. He closes in on Reynolds. He takes a look to the inside. Is he actually going to make an attempt? Yes, he does. They're going to go side by side through 3. And it looks like Wyckoff was able to hold the inside, but he can't keep the momentum. They're still side by side as Reynolds on the outside manages to rebuff Wyckoff. That was impressive.
Now, I wonder if that does speak to some damage on Wyckoff, because he should have been able to make that pass.
Now we're hearing something about Thompson, I thought. We've got, and that's Michael Thompson with some bad damage. Now, where did that happen? I'm going to see if I can figure out what happened to him. I'm assuming he... Oh, actually, it looks like he got away. We got away without a caution. Very lucky, as he got sent spinning into the pit lane out of 4. It was about, looks like about 50 seconds ago. We're going to pull up the replay. This is once more out of 4, James, but a little bit different from before. It looks like he just washed up.
Yeah, and as I'm watching here on replay, so I can get a good idea of what actually happened here. Yeah, that's just a matter of being a little too tight through the corner. That could either be, again, how you have the car set up. It could have been from arrow push from the car in front. It could have been just missing your line.
Wait, hold on. We have a couple of cars down there. Andy Kennedy looks like he spun down to the inside and has smashed the nose off that car.
This is out of 2. As we come back live, this was briefly ago. Let's go to the replay. So 2 laps in succession, we've had cars have accidents and avoid the caution. That car, unless he's got a spare car, is not coming back out to race, I don't think.
Man, that was some hard contact.
For those watching and wondering why we didn't have a caution, iRacing tries to take into account whether or not cars come back to the racing line. And since he stayed low, no caution came out. Bad news for Kennedy, though, because he is losing tons of time.
Yeah, and to update any Michael Thompson fans out there, he did get it back and did have his fast repair remaining, so he's back out on the track with a brand new car.
There you can see him on screen. Andy Kennedy pulls into his stall, and I believe Andy Kennedy's day is over. He exits out of his car. No spare car left for Mr. Kennedy. Well, if we can get a bit of a moment to breathe, Ryan Toma is still your leader. Jason Fleischle is in second, but he's not directly behind him. That is David Williams actually behind our leader, trying to get a lap back. He's 2 laps down now. I'm wondering if Williams is struggling or something with a lack of pace. We're hearing that he actually pit, so that's probably what lost him yet another lap. Third place is James Wyckoff, though.
Yeah, actually it makes sense with Williams, because remember, he had to take that wave around in order to get that lap back, so he would have been short on fuel with these guys, so he probably had to come in after taking that wave around, or else he was, because of his fuel strategy. So that makes sense.
71 laps in. If you're just joining us here on the Global Sim Racing channel, you are watching the Pacific Majors sponsored by Volt Vapes. They're running the Indianapolis 500, a full 200 miles around this 2.5 mile oval. 200 laps, excuse me. I seem to be confusing miles and laps all day today.
I tell you, Joey.
We got a caution
on the track. Oh dear.
Kyle Murphy with a violent wreck. And let's see, on the replay, it looks like this was started when it came out of one. He was all by himself. You're going to see it here as he comes down to turn one. Just washes up a little bit high. And unfortunately, well, thankfully for the other cars, he got caught on the outside and then had a weird glitch, it looks like, that sent him like a fly into the spider web.
Yeah, that's just what I was thinking too, Joe. It just grabbed him up there and waiting for Mr. Spider to come and eat his car.
Kyle Murphy takes a tow with no other choice. And that is going to give some of these guys, I think, as we watch the replay one more time with just a bizarre accident. I don't think we've seen something quite like that here yet. Ryan Toma is going to lead the way here under this caution. Fleischle in second, Wyckoff third. Blake Reynolds has been bumped down to fourth after starting in first on the restart. Mark Jubinski, who we haven't talked a whole lot about, he has moved himself up into the top 5. All right, we're going to see some cars coming for the pit stops, and we'll take a quick break after we see who takes their stops here. 73 laps in. Ryan Toma making like he's going to go in. And unless he fakes here, Ryan Toma heads in for his stop.
And that will allow David Williams to get one of those laps back if he does not pit.
Same thing with Michael Lane, going to stay out to get a lap back. Everybody coming in. Everybody is coming in. So this must have been just about the right timing.
And Michael Thompson, who had to take that new car, that fast repair shortly ago, he has stayed out. So assuming he does not come in and pit, then he'll also get his lap back.
Now, who is going to win the race off of pit lane? It looks like Toma's got it. Blake Reynolds with a fantastic stop moves from fourth to second. Fleischle gets bumped down into third, and Wyckoff is down into fourth. So a few position changes under the pit stops, but we are going to go to break. We'll come back here for the rest of the Pacific Majors Volt Vapes Indy 500. Don't go away. Welcome back to the Global Sim Racing Channel here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We're watching the Pacific Majors Indy 500 brought to you by Volt Vapes. Ryan Toma is going to lead the way on this restart. Blake Reynolds is going to be in second, Fleischle in third, Wyckoff fourth, and Callisto has worked his way up into fifth. As you said earlier, Trevor, good to see him back up and fighting at the top of the field, but pace car getting ready to peel off out of 4. As he works his way in, Ryan Toma does not wait. He accelerates right away. Green flag is out, and we are racing once more here at Indianapolis.
That was a really good jump, but I mean, I don't know. That almost looked questionable whether or not it beat the pace car before it entered pit road. So we'll have to wait and see if we got a black flag on it. That looked really close to me.
Behind him, Jason Fleischle with an incredible run on Reynolds. And he is going to be well clear by the time they hit turn 3. In fact, he scared Toma into going defensive. Oh, but look at Reynolds try to come back around the outside. That is brave stuff.
That is, wow. I mean, it is, we've talked about it before, but it is tough to go side by side through the corners here. You really, really have to be on your line low to do that. So that was some great driving.
Yeah, and in sim racing, too, it's very difficult to tell where your competitor is sometimes. And you saw Jason Fleischle brought Reynolds right up to the wall out of 4. That was trust. Here goes
Fleischle's
Fleischle.
looking on the inside.
He's led 12 laps so far. It looks like he might get to lead a few more. Ryan Toma gets slotted down into second, and Fleischle takes over the lead. Down onto the front stretch. Fleischle is going to...
Oh, Brian Bennett's pitting.
As Bennett comes in, as you said, Fleischle is going to add to his tally, but it's only going to be one more for now as Toma gets by down into turn 1. Here comes Blake Reynolds right up on the back of him. And just behind them in 4th is Wyckoff, having made a great recovery. 2 passes at once. Fleischle into 1st. Wyckoff looking at 3rd. Wyckoff now looking at 2nd. Tries to stick his nose in, but he runs out of momentum.
This is some great stuff by these guys. Back and forth and the give and take and everybody, not washing out and hitting the wall. This is some awesome racing by these guys.
Very close racing. They are getting right up next to one another, and Fleischle tries to defend, but there is no hope as Toma goes to the inside, down into 1. They're still side by side. Fleischle gets extremely close to the wall. I think there was a bit of a lift from him. Wyckoff trying to stay out of him as well. Now they head down the backstretch. Both Fleischle and Wyckoff getting a tow. Fleischle down to the inside, looking for that P1 one more time. This time Wyckoff's got to run, looking for P2. Just as a nose in through turn 3. Toma does not give it up though. Coming out of 4, your order is Fleischle, Toma, Wyckoff, Reynolds, Callisto for the top 5.
As you watch Fleischle go down and try to break that draft on these guys. Oh, as Wyckoff sticks his nose in there and just backs off in time. That was probably some wise move. That could have gone bad.
That's going to give Fleischle a bit of a break up at the front, but not quite enough as it's only half a second between them. Toma going all the way down to the grass. He's getting aggressive here. He does not want these passes to happen. We ride on board with Wyckoff in P3. Now they've started to get themselves just that little bit of room. But Toma has closed in on our leader. He lifts down the front stretch, does not make a pass.
Well, you know what, Joe? I think I figured out what's actually happened. Because we're on lap 80 here, and lap 80 would be 200 miles. So perhaps these guys are listening to the broadcast and thought the race was about to end. So they had to make their passes right now.
Gotta get a couple jabs in. I do make mistakes every once in a while. So Toma still holding on to that spot, and it looks like Wyckoff is getting a little bit less aggressive. Not trying to force the move as he holds on behind that black machine. And look at them all just snake down to the inside.
Oh, look at the run that Toma got on Fleischle there. He got an awesome pull-off and then pulled right up to him.
onto the backstretch. And our top 5, we should note, have broken away from the rest of the field. It's about a second and a half back to 6, Mark Jabinski. They've been holding station for a bit now. I think maybe they decided they had enough of all that back and forth and just trying to get some laps in once again.
Well, there's a good chance these guys are out there just having some fun because, I mean, these cars are a blast to drive. So, I mean, that back and forth and pulling up and getting the draft and making the pass, that is a lot of fun in these cars. These guys are probably just out there enjoying themselves.
Undoubtedly. As we watch this top 5, and once again, just snaking back and forth across the track, doing what they can to break that draft. I think that's a fool's errand for Jason Fleischle, as we see Thomas still yet close in to about 2/10, now down to 1/10. Driver who we've seen up at the front for much of this race, Bud Weissert. He's down to 19th, sadly. You see him on screen, trying to hold off Daniel Johnson, who we know had some trouble earlier on in the race. We've got a pass for P2, though, as Wyckoff looks around the outside of Toma. He lifts coming through the corner and lets him have it. And actually, this is starting to give Fleischle just a bit of a breakaway. Fleischle having had a great season here in the Pack Majors. Plenty of great finishes so far. In fact, one of them a win, the first round for the Daytona 2.4 road course race with the Predator style format, unique to this series. And he's continuing to stretch away, James. He's now up to 8/10 in front of these guys.
Yeah, he has a very good handling car right now, and one of the few people we seem to be able to break the draft, which it looks like he's very much on the way to doing it right now. So,
wow, look at this battle behind them, though, for second. Wyckoff getting squeezed by Toma around the outside. What a move. Unbelievable. I didn't think that you could come around the outside of turn 1 and affect the pass.
Well, I don't think you're supposed to be able to, Joe, but somehow he managed to make that stick.
No one told him you can't do that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's amazing what one can do when one doesn't know what one can't do. Well, it looks like Wyckoff is not going to take it sitting down. Oh, and there's contact! Toma into the wall!
Oh, big wow.
Caution is out, and he took another one with him. Who was that? That's Lionel Callisto into the wall and into the fence.
Man, it looked like Wyckoff just misjudged that as we go back to the replay here.
Yeah, just a little bit. Tipped him off to the side. It's an unusual place to hit as he spins him into the pit wall there.
Trevor, if you're laughing at the previous incident, go ahead and be prepared for this one as we see Lionel Callisto with a very interesting slide along the fence there.
I give him a 10 for style points. Upside down, grinding along the outside
impressive.
wall. We're going to watch on board Wyckoff. Closing rate very high in these cars sometimes. Yeah, it looks like he just didn't quite anticipate it. I think, did Toma move a little bit? We're going to watch from the boat. Let's slow it down a little bit here. As we watch it from above, let's see if they touched. I don't think that was netcode. That looks like they were right up next to one another. I think that was a legit touch by James Wyckoff.
Yeah, it looks like he went to dive around to the outside and just misjudged where his front wing was by the looks of it.
Yeah, and from watching it again, there might have been a little bit of move, actually, from Toma. Just the slightest of moves to the right side, and that might be what caused them to touch there.
Looking at the front wing of Wyckoff, I don't see any damage, so I think he's going to be okay to continue without getting any repairs done on that, which is amazing because these cars are quite fragile when it comes to making contact, especially, carbon fiber on tire. But looks like he got away okay with that mistake.
Yeah, I was taking a close look myself, and it does look clean. I don't know how long his luck is going to hold out, though, as we've got a number of cars coming in, but Jason Fleischle decides to stay out. Wyckoff stays in, or goes in. Blake Reynolds goes in. Mark Jabinski is in. Michael Smith, we haven't talked about him a whole lot lately. He is all the way up to 7th, 8th right now, but that's getting shuffled around by timing and scoring with him in the pit stall. But he was up there. Thankfully, the pit's a little bit less, involving a little less contact than we saw in the real Indy 500.
Indeed. And, obviously, as commentators, we are, impartial up here, but my heart just breaks for Callisto after, calling that race with him there a couple weeks back and then seeing him get caught up in another incident that wasn't his fault again this week. That's just heartbreaking for, a couple races in a row here for that guy.
Well, another driver that's had a bit of heartbreak who looked so promising was Adam Young, and he's waiting in our ready for interview room, so we're going to pull him in and talk to him about how his race went. There you can see his car. Adam, well, unfortunately, it looks like we are talking to you again, but I don't think in the circumstances that you had hoped.
No, not under any circumstances at all. Just 2 incidents there that I know Taft was saying that it sounded like he might have caught me the first time, and he took responsibility, and I haven't had a chance to watch it. It's all water under the bridge. Things happen when you're racing, so I don't hold any ill will toward anybody. And then the second time, Michael Lane got into the wall, and I just had nowhere to go. The funny part to me is it ended up being both Texas guys that ended up collecting, and just so that's going to hurt us a little bit in the Governor's Cup. But overall, we had a strong car. The guys that are still out there have strong cars. Clark Archer is running the same setup as us. Ethan Moore, Blake Reynolds. So we'll have to see how they do.
Yes, and I wanted to ask you about that with the ride and shotgun team. Did you guys do a lot of work with the setup, or did you have one ready from previous seasons here in the DW12 at Indy?
Well, we started working with the setup that we had very, very quickly thrown together for me and one of the other guys to run the iRacing Indy 500, and it got us second in my split. So we had a good base. Of course, the weather was completely different here. There it was sunny. Here it was, cloudy. So obviously a lot more grip in the track.
Yeah, and how much is the weather affecting the style of racing out there? Do you think that there's a lot of grip making guys a little bit more aggressive, or do you think it's making them take it a little bit more easy, knowing that they can maybe hold on to it a little bit easier?
I really think it depends on where you're at in the pack. And we got a really mix of driving going on between aggressive and between just taking it easy and coasting. We're not even halfway through the race yet, so I think some people still have that mindset. But with the cloudy conditions, you really do have a lot more grip. You can throw the car around a lot more than what you otherwise could. So I do think we've seen some chances. I think you just saw it a few minutes ago. Between James and Ryan, I think that might have been some chances there. I don't know 100% for sure, but...
Well, Adam, if you want to go and take a rest, you're welcome to. If you want to stick around in the booth and give a driver's perspective, you're welcome to stick around for a bit. But we're about to go green as the pace car is coming around 4, and it's going to be Jason Fleischle leading the way once again, Trevor.
Yeah, we'll see if he gets as good of a jump as he has been getting, and we know that once he does get out there that he's able to get away from the field at least a little bit.
All right, green flag is out. Jason Fleischle accelerates away really well and leaves Wayne Hutchison behind. Richie Hurd has moved himself up into 3rd on this restart. Ray Partridge in 4th, and Dee Palmer, driver we haven't talked about hardly at all, Palmer is up into 5th. working on lap 91 now.
As
and
Hutchinson dives
yeah.
to the inside and makes a definitive pass for the lead.
We haven't seen a whole lot of Hutchison up front, or if we've seen him, he hasn't really been making crazy moves, but Fleischle is not going to sit down and take that. He's in second place. He's looking for first place. Richie Hearn, meanwhile, in third, watching it all, taking it in, and they are line astern, 1, 2, 3, Fleischle, Hutchison, Hearn.
And remember, it wasn't that long ago. We were talking about Hearn back in, I think, 15th, 16th, and just taking it easy. And now here we are approaching halfway, and there he is sitting in third place.
Still, we're not even halfway, as Adam mentioned earlier on. So there's still a lot that could play out. We've seen before that drivers have been up at the front at other stages of the race, aren't going to be there later necessarily, either to trouble or pace later on. Meanwhile, Hutchison challenging around the outside of turn 1, and he's not able to make it happen.
So apparently he got the memo that you're not supposed to be able to make that move and backed out, as opposed to actually just making it stick.
And these guys are starting to stretch away a little bit from Partridge. I don't think Partridge is out of it, but he's got to start to book it if he wants to stay with these top 3.
Now, Joe, while we're these guys seem to have stopped attacking each other here for a minute, I just want to take a quick minute. While we were interviewing he talked about, Clark Archer, teammate there. He actually, when he was pulling out of his pits, he gassed the car a little bit because he had a couple cars on the outside and he was trying to beat him out, managed to spin the car and basically destroy it on pit lane. He did get around, stay on the lead lap, and get his fast repair, so he's now the last car on the lead lap with his new car, so he had to use his fast repair during that pit cycle.
I'm sure that's not the way Archer wanted to be able to continue on in this race. He could still come back into it, the Texas driver, but we'll have to wait and see. As you can see, still running 24th out there. We're coming very close to that halfway mark, and still Fleischle leads. Richie Hearns has decided it's time to go. He's looking around the outside, but is denied down into turn 1, and this is allowing Ray Partridge to get in it. And we got a caution. I'm looking to see who it is.
Looks like Lionel Callisto actually is spun it back out again.
Oh, and he had a little bit of help. Mike Taylor just made some contact. We're going to see it on the replay. There it is. Oh, nope, that was coming through 3. This is going to be in 4. That mobile machine dipped down low on the valvoline, just barely chopped him. And that was enough to send him around and into the inside wall. And Lionel Callisto's day is well and truly over.
That is too bad for him after getting stuck up in the catch fence not that long ago.
Little Train just seems to have the most terrible of luck this season. He's always good on these ovals. We've seen him up at the top. In fact, he's pretty good on road courses too, but it's the ovals that every time I turn around in these broadcasts, Lionel Callisto's in the top 5. Today, though, he's not going to finish there.
Well, since we just had pit stops because we had a yellow not that long ago, it'd be interesting to see if what these guys do for strategy here. I mean, we know that Fleischle did stay out on that last pit stop, so and he was one of the few cars that did. So I would expect to see him on pit road this time.
And speaking of that, James, one of the things that we talk about in racing is thinking about the pit stops in reverse, and that's trying to sync it up to get to the end. At what point do you think these drivers might start thinking about trying to line up their pit stops according to that?
About 96 laps ago. This is, I mean, you saw, again, talking about real life, Alexander Rossi, well, he started saving fuel at about lap 110, and that's how he was able to make that happen towards the end. And so this is always stuff that you're thinking about. You need to always be saving fuel when you get the opportunity. You need to always be thinking about any scenario that you can to try and get yourself in that position. So it's not just having a faster car. It's also about outsmarting your other competitors as well. So this is definitely a point where you could, again, especially when you don't lose a lap here, you could be playing a fuel strategy from here till the end.
And we just saw Fleischle miss his stall by the littlest bit. Is this going to cost him the lead? And the lead goes to Hearn. Richie Hearn takes the lead. Wayne Hutchison up to second. Fleischle down to third by that mistake.
Now, keeping in mind, actually, a few people did stay out, though. My looks like Wyckoff stayed out. Michael Smith, Jabinski, and Daniel Johnson, I believe, all stayed. Or I think those 4 cars stayed out.
It looks to be the case. They're currently scored in the top 4. Also, let's update you on the cars that have DNF'd so far. Paul Slavonic is out of this race. Tim Reiber is out. Adam Young, who we talked to a little bit earlier, he's gone. Andy Kennedy's race is over. Lionel Callisto has DNF'd. And then the last car still running, it looks like, is going to be Michael Lane in the 30th position. So 5 cars down at about the halfway mark. That's actually pretty impressive. They do have the spare car to keep them in it, but halfway through the race and only losing 5 is a good number, I think. So, looks like we're going to hit the halfway mark very soon because the pace car still has their lights on, so they're going to go at least one more around, and we're going to restart on lap 99.
Yeah, and you know what, Joe? Going back to something James talked about a minute ago with the fuel savings, for those who are not familiar with these cars, they do actually have an engine map setting in them, so they can actually kind of lean out their engine. So if they want to go onto a fuel saving strategy, they can actually run their engine just a little bit leaner. They'll lose some speed, obviously, but if it gives them a chance to actually save some fuel, if saving fuel is more important than track position or speed at a given point in time. Plus, when they run these caution laps, they'll usually go to fuel map 8, which is basically running the bare minimum. So these guys, it's not just about the weight jacker, it's also about managing that fuel strategy with that engine mapping as well to try to make sure that they have the proper strategy so that they can end up being the Indy 500 champion.
So much to think about, and that goes back to what I talked about before with if you have a mind on the pit wall, if you have a crew chief who is reminding of you things, keeping track of the settings that you need to change the car to, that would be so much more helpful. Allow the drivers to focus on the racing. The question is, who out there has a crew chief, who has someone on the box to take them to the checkered flag? They're coming up to turn 3 now, and we're going to restart here soon for the Indianapolis 500 here in the Pacific Majors live on the Global Sim Racing channel.
Actually, it looks like Fleischle is going to be starting in 14th position, so he's way back there with the shakeup on pit strategy and losing a couple positions by sliding through his stall.
Now, we haven't really seen Wyckoff up in the lead too much this race. He's led 11 laps. Let's see how he does on the restart. He's waiting, though. He's waited a long time, and now he takes off and leaves Smitty in the dust. Green flag is out. Pace car is in. We are back racing with only half of the race yet to go now.
So is the race half full or half empty, Joe?
Ask Murray Walker on that one. Well, Mark Jabinski got a terrible start, and it looks like Daniel Johnson is actually about to take over that 3rd spot here down into 3. In fact, Johnson already almost a second back as they go side by side through there, and that's going to lose them even more time. Jabinski able to hold off Johnson. And
actually, it looks like Nick Hunt is actually saying thank you very much for slowing down. I might take that spot from you.
Down into turn 1, no opportunities there. He gets a good run off the corner into the short chute. Has to wait once more. He is tucked right into the draft, washes up just a little bit, and unfortunately, that gives Nicholas Hunt a bad run down the backstretch. David Williams getting on the radio saying that he might have had netcode contact with Michael Lane.
memory serves me correctly, Daniel Johnson, I believe he started back in the field and got a black flag on the initial start of the race and had to get that lap back and spent a lot of this race towards the tail in this field. And now through strategy and racing, he's up in 4th position.
Yes, he started in 25th. And it's not so much about where you start here in Indianapolis, except for maybe staying out of the melee at the start. It's about where you can finish. What is your race pace? Daniel Johnson, though, does not look like he's terribly fast right now. They're not really gaining on that top group, and in fact, it looks like he's going to lose out to Nicholas Hunt down into turn 1 as he relinquishes that 4th place.
And this is about as far spread out as I think we've seen, like the top 10, top 5, top 10s this race so far. Normally we've had one guy standing out in a little bit of a pack, but we're pretty separated right now.
Absolutely. Smitty and Wyckoff have really stretched away from these guys and found their own little race, but they're not battling at the moment. Michael just holding in the draft of the TNT driver. These cars have now been out there for about an hour and a half, a little bit more than that. And I have to wonder, James, is fatigue maybe starting to come into play? Are some of these guys maybe getting a little bit tired, losing focus?
Oh, it's very, very possible to lose focus, especially this early on in the race. And especially, again, Indianapolis is probably the most hit your points in the turn track that we have out there. Definitely the most difficult oval that we will probably ever run on. And so definitely, only 250 miles in, it can be very, very rough. And you can definitely miss your line. You're not going to hit it right every single lap. And if you think about it, you have 800 corners that you need to hit perfectly this race. So, as many of those as you can get right, the better. But I don't think anyone's ever batting 1,000 on that.
Look at this bee's nest that we're seeing on screen. Jimbo Pfeiffer just making the overtake on Daniel Johnson. Also in that group, we've got Bud Weissert has worked his way back up. Michael Thompson around the outside of Clark Archer, holding on to that position. Richie Hearn is in it with a great run. Jason Fleischle, former leader, is in there. And Wayne Hutchison brings up the tail down to 13th. So that is 6th to 13th that all these guys are fighting.
Yeah, Joe, and I think what we're seeing is I think Daniel Johnson is a little bit slower than these guys, and he's collected this pack behind him. But he, as you saw a second ago, he did manage to get back around Jimbo Pfeiffer, but that's, the equalizer of the draft. But I think leading this pack, he's slowing these guys up a little bit.
Certainly seems to be the case. And how about a thought for Bud Weissert, who's managed to come all the way back up this far into the top 10? The question is, can he get back up to the very lead? Having some very good qualifiers. Clark Archer is going to look to the inside, but is he going to be able to get the pass done? Bud gives him plenty of room and then some. And Clark seems to be by. He's not going to sit down, though, as he goes back to the inside. Jason Fleischle pulling up behind, seeing if he can poach that position off of Archer. Just didn't have the momentum.
Yeah, so Fleischle started 14th, restart 14th. Looks like he's up to 11th now by the looks of it. So not making as much inroads as I thought he might, because we know he's got one of the fastest cars out there on the track for sure. But now that he's had to deal with a little bit of traffic as opposed to clean air, maybe the car's not handling nearly as well.
Now, speaking of cars on the move, Taft Baldwin was at the front of this group before. He's already stretched a second ahead, and he is overtaking Nicholas Hunt down into turn 3. That moves Taft Baldwin up into 4th. So Baldwin has got a very hooked up car at this point.
And James, you talked a little bit earlier about how these guys are going to set their cars up a little bit differently and how it's going to handle in clean air versus in traffic. Are we seeing some of that now that these guys who are up front are a little bit back in the pack and maybe they don't have that sort of handling in their setup?
Oh, absolutely. And I've been thinking about this with Bud Weissert He was dominant early on. Definitely the best car that we had, and then he gets stuck back. He got stuck back there because of strategy, and we have not seen very much progress happen from Bud at all since that time happened. So he's either needs to continue making those changes to the setup to try and get back up there to work better in the pack, or he's going to need to find some other strategy to help get him back out front. But that car is definitely hurting right now.
He's holding off the outside with Jason Fleischle trying to take that position away, get into the top 10. Can't quite do it. He's going to have a run down into 3, a little bit better one this time. Can Fleischle finally crack into the top 10? Looks like it should be a done deal, but we've seen cars are holding around the outside. Bud Weissert once again making it stick up in the high line. Not typical that you see in these DW12s. Fleischle just can't seem to do anything to get around him as we hop on board.
Takes another look. Gets the inside of the preferred line through turn 1.
It looks like he just can't carry the momentum off the corner, and it's hurting him every time. Just behind them, they have Richie Hearn watching and waiting.
Ooh, actually, speaking of Richie Hearn, I was watching there, and it looks like he washed up a little bit, and he did make contact with the wall. So Richie Hearn does have a little bit of damage on that right-hand side right now.
I wonder if Richie still has a spare car left, and the question is, how long does he wait before he takes it in his pit stop? Or does he take it? Does he hold on to it until the very last stop?
Oh, and Budweiser just got super loose and almost tank slapped it into the wall, but managed to hold it off.
You know, there was some chat, James, before the race with some of the drivers in the Pack Majors thread about not finding racing at Indy that interesting because they think it's just flat to the floor and turn left every once in a while. I feel like everyone who assumes that racing the Indy 500 is like that is missing out on what it's actually like to try and drive these cars.
That's just like everyone that plays Xbox thinks that they can come over here as well. It's definitely not. It's definitely for sure not a put your foot to the floor and go through. And yeah, you are wide open. A lot of these. Oh, caution! Caution's out.
Trying to see who was involved with that. Oh, it sounds like Clark was involved. Clark Archer, as we watch the replay, through turn 1, has found as well himself in the aero wash that is not as simple as just putting your foot to the floor, as he puts side of car to the wall instead.
Yeah, and of course, as we mentioned on that last yellow, he did have to take his spare car, and that car looks like it has significant damage, so his day may be done.
Yeah, I am pretty certain that he hit hard enough he can't get that thing back out there. Even if he did, he's going to be multiple laps down and well off the pace. Sad end for Clark Archer as he shuffles down the timing and scoring and gets added to the DNF list. That would be number 6, I believe. So it must have been actually calm for just a little bit up front while we were watching some of the battling farther down the field, because Wyckoff still is in the lead. Smitty is still holding on to second. Jabinski is our third place car. Taft Baldwin is in fourth, and Nicholas Hunt rounds out the top 5. Waiting to see what happens with the pit stops here. Hasn't been that long ago. They just came back to green at the 100 lap mark, 99 lap mark really. And they're on lap 113 now. Wyckoff making like he's going to go in.
That's about halfway through a fuel cycle, so yeah, looks like just about everybody's coming down, and that's not too surprising.
Oh, was there contact between Smitty and Wyckoff there?
It looked real close.
That's bizarre, because they should both be on a limiter, unless Smitty's accidentally went off. Could have hit his button by accident.
It looked like just as they were coming to the speed limit. Yeah, actually, Wyckoff slowed down slower than he had to. He got down to about 50 miles an hour, and I bet you that Smitty was right at 60, and that's why they came real close. And they did make a contact, but it might have been incidental.
Well, they came out in the same order, so it looks like Wyckoff is the first off pit road, Smitty, and then Taft Baldwin. Can't remember if Baldwin was in third before the stops. There were some drivers that stayed out. Jason Fleischle stayed out, and he was on the lead lap, so he should inherit the lead. Mark Walls stayed out. He's going to be in second. Daniel Johnson, who we saw into the pits right before that caution. Good timing for him because he stayed on the lead lap, and he is now in third position. All right, with that, with the pit stops done, we're going to go to a short break. We'll come back here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. Welcome back to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. We're watching the Volt Vapes Indy 500, the Pacific Majors. Your leader as we come back to green here shortly will be Jason Fleischle. He's led 31 laps. Let's see how many more he can lead. He's got Mark Walls behind him in second, and Daniel Johnson in third. James Wyckoff, who's been a threat all race long, he is going to start fourth, and Michael Smith is going to start fifth. Pace car comes out of turn 4, peels off into the pit lane, and Jason does not wait at all as he accelerates away. Green flag is out. Jason's got a good gap back to Mark Walls. We haven't seen a whole lot of Mark up at the front. He's led 2 laps so far. Let's see what he can do if he can hold pace. Jason Fleischle with a big gap up to Walls in second. Terrible start for James.
I'm just absolutely fascinated with how, like the actual Indy 500, this race looks and has the feel of with all the passing for the lead and the close calls.
Yeah, and that is Smitty, who loses momentum coming out of 4, and now he's going to lose a spot to Taft Baldwin. Very close moments between Smitty and James Wyckoff. Wyckoff comes back at Daniel Johnson around the outside of turn 1. He likes this move, and he makes it stick. Maybe. Still side by side coming through 2. He's going to have to carry the momentum to get it done, and he does down the backstretch. Meanwhile, behind them, a bit of a battle between Jabinski and Baldwin. Smitty slipping further back down into 7th. A terrible opening with the restart for Michael Smith. guys starting to calm down just a little bit, staying single file. This goes from third place all the way back to 8th with Nicholas Hunt on the tail of the train. They've got Bud Weissert trying to close in. He's worked his way up to 9th now. There you see a move being made by Jubinski on the inside of Johnson down into 3. Johnson gives him room. And James, you talked about the similarities. I feel like that's one area where it stops being similar. Is these? Oh, we got a caution. Looks like Drew Lalonde. Oh, haven't talked about Drew a whole lot. Usually he's pretty good at these ovals. And unfortunately, this was due to side-by-side racing with Ryan Toma, actually. There was contact. You're going to see through turn 3 here. Just gets a little bit of a hip check. And unfortunately, that sends him right into the wall. What I was about to say as we look at another replay here, James, is one of the similarities that I think it stops is that we saw a lot of guys just confidently chop people off in the real Indy 500 coming down into 3 there if they didn't have more of a nose in. It seems like they're being a little bit more polite most times.
Well, and another thing is I think that the netcode is just so bad in this car here on iRacing that they've improved it and they're continuing to try and improve it with every single build, but it's still not quite there, and you just can't do things. You have more room for error. You have less room for error here on the sim, so you can't get as close as you would in real life because any type of slight contact that would just be parts breaking off in real life, well, that sends the car around here in the sim.
As we saw with poor Drew Lalonde.
Yeah, and we talked about it earlier about how difficult it was for these guys to go side by side, and I'm actually surprised we haven't seen an accident like that before, because it is so easy, like you were saying earlier, Joe, to lose track of where that guy beside you is, and I think that's just what happened. Those guys were a little bit closer than they thought they were, and a little bit of contact, and poor Drew's car gets destroyed.
We saw on screen Mark Walls is headed in for a pit stop, so he must have been slightly off sequence to allow him to get up into the top 3 there. Number 18 coming in for, I'm assuming, fuel and tires. Or is it only fuel? I don't think he went up on the... Okay, so he did take both. I must have looked away when he went up on the jacks.
Well, I think Mark came in because he's, it looks like he's actually competing with Brian Barnes to have the most pit stops for this race. So that was actually his 10th of the race, where a lot of people like Jason Fleshley has only actually had 4 pit stops. So Jason's just doing the I'm only going to pit when I need it sort of strategy by the looks of it.
I kind of wonder if Mark's doing what I've done when I did Indy 500s in the past year on iRacing, where I'm not worried about trying to be up at the front. I just... Whenever there's a yellow coming to the pit, send myself to the back of the line and kind of stay out of trouble and wait until those last maybe 20 laps to try and maybe start working through. But Mark Walls gets shuffled down into 21st position. He's not the last car in the lead lap, though. That would go to Mike Taylor at the moment.
And looking at Drew Lalonde, looks like he didn't have his faster pair. His crew did put on a new front wing and by the looks of it, a new rear pod, but the car definitely is still showing some damage. So he didn't get his faster pair, but the crew was actually pretty quick in repairing that car up, at least hopefully so we can get out there and be slightly competitive.
Some chatter over the radio about wave around still. David Williams has been stuck laps down for most of this race. He's still 2 laps down. And I think he's hoping and pleading to try and get his back, but he's going to come in for his pit stop now along with the other lapped cars.
Yeah, and Williams, you got to feel for him because that's one of those things that's out of his control. If you remember earlier on in the broadcast, he lost those laps because he had a connection issue, or at least lost one of them at the very least because of that connection issue. So, it's kind of akin to real racing where sometimes you have electrical issues or something goes on that it's out of your hands and you end up having a bad finish because of it.
Yep, instead of... and he misses his pit stall. Not that it matters too much, I think, in this case for David Williams, but I was going to say, you mentioned, electrical problems, things like that. It's basically almost as though run down pit lane, had him plug in the laptop real quick, lost those 2 laps, jumped back out. So, and the car is good as new. David Williams back out, still running in 28th position. And unfortunately, not looking like he's going to be in the running today, and this is going to hurt his hopes in retaining his championship crown.
Yeah, there's been a few people here, Joe, that we kind of expected to see up the front, and some of them were, and then have faded back, and due to one problem or another, are back in the pack, like Williams and Toma now is back 2 laps down. So.
And you remember Toma actually ran into a little bit of trouble early on, if I'm remembering correctly. I know he was part of that incident with Drew Lalonde with the hip check. And actually, no, it was Toma was the one that ran into the inside the pit wall back when he had trouble with Wyckoff. That's what I was thinking of. Well, looks like we're getting ready to restart as the pace car peels off. Fleischle accelerates right away. James Wyckoff's restarting in second, with Jubinski in third. Johnson still holding on to that fourth. He is back up in the running. We didn't expect him to still be up here. And Taft Baldwin rounds out the top 5.
Yeah, I mean, that's 79 car, Daniel Johnson. He's the one who's impressed me the most out of this. He doesn't seem to have as much speed as the other cars, but through strategy and some good passing maneuvers, he's staying up here in the top 5 as he has a car looking on the inside with Taft Baldwin, loses a spot, but he looks like he's willing to lose a spot here or there, but he's still maintaining that top 5 position.
Meanwhile, battle for P2. Mark Jabinski overtakes James Wyckoff. Wyckoff looking back to the inside and trying to get himself a run. Fleischle ducking down there, trying to break the draft from these guys. Wyckoff has the inside down into turn 1. He's used to being on the outside. There's a little bit of touch.
Oh.
And we've got Jabinski in the wall, and that is possibly his race over. Everybody scattering to avoid him, and the yellow flag is now out. I think there was a little bit of contact between... Looks like Jabinski and Richie Hearn. Oh, another guy that we expected to stay up there. I think if there was contact, it was ever so slight. We're looking on board Jabinski. Another check. That one looked like net code this time, actually. A lot of drivers did a very good job to avoid him in that.
Yeah, definitely, because they were all coming up to speed there and approaching at speed and didn't have a lot of time to react.
Yeah, you're coming down that short chute very, very fast. Thank goodness he stayed up to the outside wall and didn't come across.
Yeah, and looking at Richie Hearn's car, looks like he does have a little bit of wing damage there, so he's probably going to have to go in and get that repaired.
Now, Wyckoff was getting on the radio about something, but I couldn't quite make out something about parking it. And I'm not sure who he was referring to, if he was talking about himself. Remember, this is the second time that I can recall that Wyckoff has made contact with another car and caused an accident.
Yeah, I'm looking at Wyckoff's line through there, and it looks like he didn't... I don't see him coming off line there, so I don't know that was... he was at fault for that. Looks like he stuck to his line and Jabinski maybe came down slightly. We talked about how hard it is. It's super hard to see exactly where that car is, and I think it was just a matter of just not quite enough room.
I'm going back and watching on my screen as well. He was holding a pretty low line. He was a little bit above the white line. But like we said, it's just so tough to go side by side through there. I think that's really what caused it. So, yeah, I have to agree. I'm pretty sure that that's more of a racing incident. You go side by side through one. You basically run the risk. But Wyckoff just said that he's retiring.
Well, he is pulling into pit road.
He seems very unhappy with the way things have been racing.
And apparently he decided he wanted to destroy his car before he was done.
Yeah, it sounds like he's been the pinball wizard during this race. Is I guess a PG take on his exit from the race.
Yeah. Using some words on the radio we can't, unfortunately, repeat. And I'm sure we'll see some Very heated words from James on the forums after this race on his opinion. I'm surprised he quit because I didn't think that he would get any damage from that contact. It was very, very slight. He could have continued on.
Yeah, I don't think that was a matter of damage, to be honest with you, Joe. I think that was frustration. This is a long race. It is a challenging race, and I think that was a matter of, you know what, I'm just done. I can't do this anymore. I'm tired of either being part of incidents, and that's it. I'm heading to the trailer. I'm going to grab a cold one and watch the rest from there.
I'm sure Ryan Tomo is wondering why he couldn't have quit a little bit earlier, so that he could have been maybe farther up the field. But our order now, interestingly, actually, I guess we must have missed some pit stops. I'm seeing that Taft Baldwin is leading, Daniel Johnson is in second, and Michael Smith is in third. So we've had some changes up front.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised we've seen as much split pit. That's easy for me to say. Split pit strategy here, where I kind of expected if you were at least halfway or most of the way through a fuel run that you'd just be coming down and getting fuel and tires. But that's not the way these guys are playing this race at all.
Well, certainly makes it entertaining for the viewers, as we are not going to probably know how this thing will play out until it comes to the checkered flag flying. I believe the lights have gone off on the pace car, so we should be going to green next time by. Now, another name that we need to point out, Bud Weissert. He is in the top 5 now. He's worked his way back up.
This is probably where he wants to be with the way that his car is set up aerodynamically. I think that he's in close enough up to the front now that hopefully he should be able to kind of work his way back up there. But we'll see how exactly it goes, but I think this is a much better position here for Bud.
And what I'm actually watching for on this start, Joe, is Daniel Johnson in that second position. It seems that he doesn't have the raw speed of some of these other cars, and that's probably due to setup. With him being in second position on this restart, let's see if either the rest of the pack attacks him or he ends up holding back and giving Taft a little bit of breathing room. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out once the green flag flies again.
We're going to find out in one more corner. We are going to restart on lap 127. We have had a spate of cautions since we hit the halfway mark. Let's see if these guys can get a little longer of a green flag run and get this race moving. Pace car comes out of 4, gets ready to peel off into the pit lane. Going to give Taft Baldwin control of the field. He waits, still waiting, long time, and Taft Baldwin finally accelerates away.
We have contact in the back. They get really bunched up there. Everyone's going to keep it straight, though, but we have some bent-up wings.
Oof. Ray Partridge might have been a part of that. I heard him get on the radio expressing some displeasure. And this has allowed Johnson to stay in this thing. Michael Smith getting a little wide, and that's going to allow Nicholas Hunt to dive down to the inside. But look at Daniel Johnson looking around the outside. He has not led a lap yet. Is he going to be able to lead his first one? No, not quite far enough into turn 3.
Well, it shows what I know. Looks like Daniel was able to stick with Taft, but unfortunately that move is going to cost him second position. Perhaps looks like he's going to be able to hold on to it there.
I think Nicholas Hunt being on the low line coming out of 4 cost him the momentum, and this is backing these guys up away from Taft Baldwin just a little bit. Johnson could still duck back into that draft. Bud Weissert still at the tail of this train. Smitty looking a little uncertain coming off of 2, loses momentum. Weissert looks to the inside. Can he take that 4th position? Smitty gives him room and he gives it up.
I'm just looking back through the pack here at Richie Hearn as he was affected by that bit of contact, and he does have a new front wing on there, so he has repaired that damage and is back out on the track in 17th position.
There you can see Hearn's machine barreling down into turn 1, and quite a thick pack, actually. More like stock car racing out here with these guys today.
Yeah, and I think that's a matter of the way that Taft started the field, where he stacked everybody up because everybody was had been going right on the as soon as they had a chance to go, and Taft decided to wait a little bit, and they backed them all up, and that's created this kind of snarling bee's nest in the back of the pack.
And we got a pass for the lead here. Daniel Johnson has the run. He looks to the inside of Baldwin. Can he get him in turn one? He does. Johnson to the lead. An unexpected turn in this race. Can he hold on to it before they get back to the line and
There was
officially lead a
contact.
lap?
Someone sideways.
Mark Jabinski getting on the radio. I'm assuming that involved him.
Well, if it didn't before, it should now, because he's in a mess of cars right now.
And he made an incredible save. Mark Walls just clipped him heading down into one. We're going to look at the replay here. And actually, that was almost 3 wide and 1, which I can tell you definitely won't work.
Wow, that was an amazing save by Jabinski.
Absolutely. Here you're going to see it as they get checked up. He takes a little bit of a look. Was not expecting it to be 3 cars. And I don't know if he's had some time in the sprint car, but got a caution.
Ooh, Ethan Moore is flipping through the air right now. That was our 9th place car.
And once again, we've been seeing this time and time again. Cars getting side by side in corners and not being able to hold their line. Jimbo Pfeiffer gave just a little bit of a touch. And actually, Michael Thompson might have gotten a piece of that as well. We'll look at him one more time here. Very hard hit. Now, we haven't seen a whole lot of Ethan Moore. He's part of that riding shotgun team. And clearly he's going to need to take a free repair, but I don't know if he's used his yet. I think he may have. He's not in the car right now. He's taken his tow a while ago. I think this might be adding Ethan Moore to the DNF list, sadly.
And I tell you, Michael Thompson, he got an interesting point of view of that car as the front wing of Ethan came basically sailing through his helmet by the looks of it.
Wow. Close call from Michael Thompson of the West Club, apparently, who's now in 9th place. However, we are going to take another short break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We're 132 laps in to the Indianapolis 500, brought to you by Volt Vapes in the Pacific Majors. We'll be back soon. Welcome back as the pace car works around turn 3. We're getting back to go green here soon on lap 135 of 200 for the Volt Vapes Indianapolis 500 here in the Pacific Majors. You're watching it live on the Global Sim Racing channel. Our leader, Daniel Johnson, bit of a surprise this race after being farther back earlier on. Taft Baldwin will start in second. Bud Weissert in third. He's had to work his way back up for quite a while. Smitty is going to be starting in fourth and Blake Reynolds in fifth. As the pace car peels off, Daniel Johnson has control for the first time, and he accelerates away as the green flag waves, gets a decent jump. In fact, Taft Baldwin is already under threat from Bud Weissert as he looks to the inside down into turn 1. Bud Weissert back up into P2.
And it was a long road to get here, but Bud is now hunting down the lead after a big absence due to
look
strategy.
at this. Look at that run that he have. Wastes no time whatsoever. Bud Weissert back to P1. So work their way around 4. Oh, and I believe that was Blake Reynolds in the background getting a piece of the wall.
Yeah, looks like he washed up. Oh, slight contact. I don't think it'll affect the car too much.
Taft Baldwin was overtaken by Daniel Johnson down the front stretch. PJ back into that second position, trying to get back up on Bud Weissert. Boy, if Johnson was playing dead as he looks to the inside, down into turn 3, and he takes the lead. And he can come up to the high side if he wants, but he stays a little bit low still. He's going to have that position. Stays low coming out of the corner.
Yeah, unfortunately staying low through there, it's going to affect his momentum coming off that corner, but as Bud is looking the outside, but looks like he's going to maintain position. I thought that was going to hurt him, actually, but looks like he'll maintain position.
I think Johnson is fooling a lot of people. We all thought he was... we didn't realize he was playing possum earlier on in the race when he was lower down, but he's worked back up to the front. He might lose the lead as Weissert looks back to the inside. He's going to get it into 3. Meanwhile, behind them, you have Taft Baldwin looking to see what he can do. He's got to run, but has to slow it up through the short chute. Michael Smith also in this fight, and this has slowed this group up enough that they've got Wayne Hutchison making it 6 for the lead now. Smitty looking to the inside, trying to get P3 away. Oh, and he gets a little bit loose coming through turn 1.
Yeah, that happened. I was going to say that happened. Daniel Johnson looked like he was going to make a move to the inside, decided to come out of it, just to lift up a little bit. Wasn't going to make the move, and that backed right up behind him. They did a great job of not all nailing each other there.
Intense racing up at the front, and we're still only on lap 138. These guys have a ways to go. I understand that Mike Franklin is a little bit slow.
Oh, he is a lot of slow, Joe. He is crab walking it bad down the backstretch right now.
And it looks like that happened. Actually, whoa, he had some help. That was going into turn 1. He got tipped by David Williams, another TNT car, misjudging things and nudging a car into the wall on the front stretch. That's a really strange coincidence, actually.
Oh, that was kind of ugly.
You're going to see it here. It's right at the end, at the worst possible moment for Franklin. He went up into the wall, and he was just rim riding all the way around. He's down into the pits now, but that's his race pretty much ruined.
Meanwhile, up front, we have Bud has taken the lead, and Taft Baldwin has taken over that second position from Daniel Johnson. So the two Budweiser cars are now 1 and 2, with Bud stretching it out just a little bit in the lead here.
Johnson closing up on the backstretch, but he lifts deciding he's had enough of that action, just going to calm it down for now. Still have 60 laps to go here. Behind them, Blake Reynolds has managed to get back up into the top 5. He's sitting in 4th, watching to see how these guys have been battling, just stalking them for now. Here we look over the shoulder of Blake Reynolds, working his way around the track. That draft, once again, allowing these guys to really close in. You can see how quickly they get up on the rear spoiler of these cars. Still your order, Weissert in 1st, Baldwin 2nd, Johnson 3rd, Reynolds 4th, and Smitty has started to drop back significantly in 5th.
So the thing I want to know, Joe, is are Bud and Taft teammates, or do they just share a love of a certain beverage?
Well, let me double check here. Actually, I do have a team list. And they might, actually, I don't think they are. They're in different clubs, but I'm not sure if they're limited by that when they choose teams.
Because it certainly is confusing to watch the two of them now racing 1 and 2 with the basically identical cars, so that can't be a coincidence.
It looks like Baldwin is part of the PMG group. He's teammates with Chris Pence, who I do not believe is in the top split. Speaking of which, if you want to check out the AM split, because they do have 2 races going on simultaneously, they're being broadcast by our friends over at Off Camber TV.
As we have a, looks like Johnson is about to lose 4th position and does from Blake Reynolds. One thing I'll say about Johnson, though, is he definitely has been racing very smart, giving a lot of room, and I think that's kind of contributing to him being up here at the front, just playing a nice, smart, cautious sort of race here, putting the moves in when he can, but when he knows he can't, he just backs out of it and gives room.
There's something to be said about choosing your battles wisely when it comes to racing in the Indy 500. And it seems to be what Johnson is doing this race. Unfortunately, these guys have dropped off of the top just a little bit. I think Baldwin and Weissert were fighting there for moments, and now they're going to gain ground as they come through the north side of the track.
But it is quite a gap from Johnson all the way back to the 4th place position, or 5th place position. Smitty,
yeah, and actually he was side by side with Wayne Hutchison. Mark Walls is up in there too. Smitty was able to come out on top, still holding that P5. It looks like Walls and Hutchinson are teammates, judging by their paint schemes, as they're going to swap places down into 3.
And looks like they managed to swap positions better than the Sauber team did in the Monaco F1 race.
That's for sure. And Bud Weissert announces he is going to be pitting this lap. Checking through my team list to see if I can figure out what team Hutchison and Walls are on. Looks like they're on Dog Bear Blue, actually, one of the teams fighting for that Constructors' Championship. Up in 4th place currently. We're watching our leader, Weissert, coming around turn 4. He said he's coming in. And there he goes. His teammate Taft Baldwin elects to stay out and inherit the lead.
Still impresses me how these guys are able to get down from 200 miles an hour down to 60 and get it right on the button.
And that goes, I think, James, to show that these guys aren't just showing up the day of and trying to make the race. I think there's a lot of practice that goes into their pit stops, their pit strategy, and pit entry as well.
Yeah, and I do believe that these guys, they've spent all week qualifying. They have plenty of laps on this speedway for sure. And this is not a track you can just show up and run well at. It requires a really good setup, a good strategy. There's so many things that play in in a race like this. So, the guys that we see up front today, they did not just show up tonight.
We're watching a battle here for 7th position. Dee Palmer and Mark Jabinski there going at it. Jason Fleischle is in that group. Interesting to note, I was looking at our stats. Fleischle has led the most laps so far, even though he's down in 8th. We haven't seen him up at the front in quite a while. In fact, most of our drivers who have led most of the laps are now down, although Bud Weissert would have broken that trend. He just pitted. He's led 25. He's just ahead of Ryan Toma, who's led 17. Taft Baldwin up at the front. He's led 10.
So to keep, just for reference sake here, Bud did come down, make his pit stop, stayed on the lead lap, but he's only about half a straightaway ahead of Taft right now. So we're going to have to see if he can either try to stretch it out with all that clean air and stay on the lead lap, or he's going to get swallowed up by that group behind him.
And James, how much of an advantage does the fresh tires give? How much is it? A couple of seconds a lap faster, or is it only tenths? Do you think we'll be able to stretch away?
It's only tenths, so I mean it's definitely close enough that you can have some type of tire strategy come in of maybe just coming in taking fuel. But I mean, if you can, you definitely want fresh tires. It's not worth much, but as close as these guys are running, it's worth enough.
And a lot of the leaders have headed in for their stops, so Bud might be slightly off strategy. Now, he came in, what was it, about 148? And if they're doing about 30 laps a stint, looks like he's giving himself some leeway, potentially.
And actually, I was watching Bud there, and on the straightaway, just before the start-finish line, looks like he made slight contact with the wall. He was just kind of going in a straight line and just kind of swerved just slightly to the right. I wonder if he was making an in-car adjustment. We talked about weight jackers and fuel mixtures and everything. There's a lot of dials and knobs that you change in the car, and you're going to do it on the straight stretch if you can. So I wonder if that was a slight lapse of judgment and distracted by making some adjustments.
Difficult to tell unless we get to talk to Bud after the race, and we're seeing Blake Reynolds, one of our other leaders, now heading into the pits. Green flag stops. This could have major implications when we get to the end of the race. We have passed lap 150. Now only a quarter of the race left to go.
And of course, anybody who's stopping now can make it on one more stop, because as we mentioned before, it's about a 30-lap fuel run. So anybody making a stop now has one more stop left in this race, barring any cautions.
Baldwin continues on, stays out, and in fact, I think he might be able to put a lap on Reynolds here that we're watching. It's going to be very close. There you can see him in the background, actually. Actually, no, that might be Bud.
See, the curse of the similarly colored cars comes again. But yeah, no, that's Bud going around, and you can see Taft just in the back of him there, in the back of the shot.
Oh,
so he's got about half a straightaway.
Taft is going to save him the worry. He's pitting in, so he will not put them a lap down. That means Michael Smith is going to inherit the lead. No, he won't. Now, we saw Reynolds... Or Baldwin, excuse me, was very hot. And did he speed maybe potentially? The Texas driver trying to get him loaded up in time. So this will hand the lead over to Mark Walls now, who has his teammate Wayne Hutchison just come out ahead of him. Jubinski is currently in second. And Jason Fleischle, who has yet to pit, now gets bumped up into the third position. Michael Thompson may have had a problem. Let's see if we can find him. I'm looking at the time and scoring here and see where in the world he is.
Oh yeah, he actually made some not too insignificant contact with the wall.
It was about a minute ago, it looks like.
Yeah, about a minute ago, it looks like he got down off the track and then just kind of pulled over and took a tow. The car didn't look like it was that badly damaged, but apparently something was preventing him from driving it back to the pit road.
Yeah, he was side by side with Rob Gall and just washed up on the outside of one. Easy to do. Interesting from the replay.
Yeah, that is a curious incident. I'm not entirely sure what all happened there.
And it looks like he's out of the car still. I'm not sure how long that tow takes. I think Thompson, remember he had troubles earlier on that we saw, so I'm pretty sure his day is just over. And maybe that's why he took a tow. He knew that that was it. He's not going to get that car repaired and out and competitive. So interestingly, I'm looking around and I see we've been following David Williams' progress. Well, I'm pretty sure at this point he is the last car running, not the type of Indy 500 that our former champion really wanted today.
No, definitely not, for sure. We kind of expected him to be up towards the front, but that is not the day that he had, for sure.
Now, Mark Walls inherited that lead. Remember, he's the driver who's pitted many times. He's got 13 on my timing and scoring, if that's correct. I'm wondering how long he can go. Everyone still has to make at least one more stop.
Yeah, everybody has to make at least one, and if they make it to around lap 170, then and of course I don't know how how much fuel each of these guys has, but if they can make it to lap 170, then that would be their final stop potentially. I mean, we talked about the fuel mapping earlier, and it'll depend on obviously when their stop was and everything, but it is possible if you have the room to go out there, tone that engine right down and get a few extra laps and maybe play a fuel strategy.
Oh, and Walls is in. Oh, and Fleischle is in.
Walls is into the wall.
Fleischle. Major damage. Does he have a spare car? He's going to lose a lot of time. We're going to watch the replay. Oh, embarrassing moment for Jason. And I think this is a case of... he looks like he was trying to come in and he was caught out a little bit by Walls and his teammate trying to get it woed up as well. We're going to watch it one more time.
Oh, he made a late decision to come in there, and I think that's what led to that.
Oh, yeah, that's easy to do for sure, especially with that late of an entry. You do not want to be turning that wheel when you're hard on the brakes.
No, that's the only way that ends is about what we just saw.
Well, as he crab walks his way to his stall and finally comes to a halt. Let's see if he gets a spare car. Yes, he does. But I think, he's going to lose a lot of positions. In fact, I'm pretty sure he's going to go a lap down here. He is a lap down now.
It's still almost magical. He pops in, all of a sudden, ba-doom, fresh car.
That means that right now our leader is Nicholas Hunt.
We haven't talked too much about Nicholas this race so far.
He hasn't really been up at the front much. He's now led 2 laps. I remember earlier on in the race, he was up in the top 5, I want to say. But he didn't really seem to stay there very long. Another name we haven't mentioned a lot, Bob Beltrami is behind him currently in 2nd.
Yeah, actually, I was just looking at our timing and scoring, and we have a lot of names we haven't really seen. We have, Hunt and Beltrami and Gall, and Bennett was up for a bit and then was way back towards the back, and Jimbo Pfeiffer in 5th position. Kyle Murphy in 6th. So this pit cycle is really shaking up the leaderboard right now.
In fact, other than Nick, the only other driver, or the next car down that has led a lap, you have to go all the way to 8th, and that's Taft Baldwin. All the top 7 have not led a lap except for Hunt. Meanwhile, we're watching Michael Smith with a nice little battle here with Bud Weissert as Weissert looks to the inside. This is for the top 10. Weissert getting very close to that outside wall on the exit of 1. I'm curious to see is, since you mentioned, if they can make it to lap 70, they're good to go to the end. If some of these guys up at the top are trying to stretch it to there.
Well, and because they're stretched out a little bit, you can afford to lose a couple of tenths a lap, and not be in too bad a shape. And even if you lose a position or two, if you can stretch it out to make one less pit stop, well, that could make the difference.
I'm looking to see when the last pit stop was for Nick, and I think it must have been at the last caution flag, which ended around 135. So he should be coming in right about now, I think.
Yeah, but so that puts him right around now. But if he's been saving fuel and maybe playing a strategy, he only needs to save it out another 5 laps. That could come into play here.
Let's see if he comes in. Nope, he stays out. Rob Gall announcing he can't make it any farther. He's got to come in. Boy, James, you talked about it mirroring the real-life Indy 500. This is looking eerily similar.
Yeah, where have we seen this before? So it's we're so easy to forget, but not when it happens last week. So this is definitely, and there's another thing too, is Trevor's been talking about the fuel mapping and how you can trim it back here. Now, if you go, it has 8 different settings. If you go all the way to 7, honestly, it doesn't do as much as you think that it would. If you drop all the way down to 8, well, because you'll be looking exactly like Alexander Rossi did.
Nicholas Hunt into the wall. The second car we've seen in succession have an error on pit entry. Sorry to interrupt, James.
Yeah, no, that took me by surprise too, but it's definitely a lot harder to save fuel here on the sim than it is in real life. So if someone does it, it's just going to be all the more impressive that they did.
And Jimbo Pfeiffer is also in. Looks like he rolled through his pit stall as well, so that's going to cost him some time.
And I believe that cycles us through the guys that we saw stopping just about a dozen laps ago, because Brian Bennett is back to the lead, but he needs to make at least one more stop before we're done. And he's making it now, actually. I thought we saw Bennett pit recently. I may be confusing him with... Actually, you know what? I think I'm confusing him with Baldwin and Weissert. Barnes stays out. Brian Barnes inherits the lead. ...167 laps. We're now 33 to go.
And looking back, looks like Brian Barnes did pit around the same time as the other guys who have already come in for their stop. And looks like he's coming in right now. So these guys are going to be real close on fuel.
They're going to be pushing the limit, that's for sure. And that means that Taft Baldwin now finally re-inherits the lead. He does, for sure, need to make one more stop. And the thing that could still throw everything out the window and change the game is the cautions. Are we going to see any more? We've gone quite a while without one.
Another impressive thing here is I believe we have 21 cars still on the lead lap here after 168 laps. So that is quite impressive. We did have some cautions that helped out with that, but we've had some long green flag runs as well.
Guys seem to have gotten themselves sorted out as we watch Bud Weissert, now down to 4th. Has his own little bit of track. That's how his car seems to like it, out in the clean air. Closest battle right now that I can see up at the top, Daniel Johnson just behind Bud Weissert. He's holding that top 5 position. Johnson started with troubles with a black flag, has managed to bounce back, has been running in the top for about 50 or so laps now, I want to say. Still, it looks like he's not intending to make a move at the moment and just kind of holding on to the coattails of Weissert.
It looks like he does a little look-see on the inside just to make Bud know that he's there and maybe make a mistake, but we hold station with 4th and 5th.
I'm not sure. I'm wondering if it was, instead of a look, it was just trying to get himself some clean air behind the car in front. See if he does it again. No, not quite in the 3. Riding on board now with Johnson. Texan seeing what he can do if he can grab himself a win here at the famed Indianapolis Oval. And now we've hit that magic mark. 30 laps to go. And James, is this something where you start thinking pit now and maybe hope that it comes your way with the caution, or start banking on having everything ready to go and staying out ahead if everybody else pits?
Well, the quickest way is if you're able to split it evenly, would be good. If you're close enough to the lead, you can pit without losing a lap here. But you do need to be close enough to the lead in order for that strategy to work out. So if you're not in that position, I would wait and split it up in the run into the run and a half. And then with that, you can take on less fuel. You'll have the lightest car, the freshest tires for the most part of the event. That's how I would be playing it, depending on where I was sitting in the field.
We see Richie Hearn running 9th right now. He's not out of it, but he's going to have to do a lot to try and get himself up into a chance for the win. And a lot of these drivers are very spread out at this point. We still have 27 cars on the lead lap. 20 cars on the lead lap. Sadly, though, because of Jason Fleischle's incident earlier, even though he got his spare car, he is a lap down. And he's the first car a lap down.
Yeah, I was actually just looking at Jason as well, and it looks like he just slightly scraped the wall as well. So his bad day seems to be getting a little worse as he's got a little bit of right side damage now.
Jason started the season very promising. He could still come back. I mean, we've got 27 laps to go, but I'm not sure.
We got Blake Reynolds into the pits, making his final stop from 3rd position. Or actually, I think he was in 2nd when he came in.
I think that's correct, yes. And the strategy calls start to kick off. No matter what, Reynolds should be good to go until the end. And he missed the stall! That is going to hurt. Getting fresh tires as well. And he's off and away.
I saw Bud on the radio. Not sure if he was saying he was coming in for pits or not.
He is. Here he goes. He is coming in way hot, though. Can he get it wound up? Just about in time. Beautiful job. Baldwin still our leader at the moment. He's led 22 laps out there.
So it looks like some of our faster cars are coming in and doing the I'm pitting as soon as I know I can make it sort of strategy. But if I was one of the mid-pack cars, a little bit slower maybe, I'd wait this out and see if the cautions can fly your way and maybe steal one here. Absolutely.
There's still so many unknowns in these final few laps. Weissert now back out onto the track as he gets his car up to speed. That's Michael Smith coming up behind him in the blue and yellow machine. Smitty has now been moved up into 2nd. We haven't seen Smitty get a win in the Pacific Majors for quite a while. He's had some bad luck in recent times. Question is, can he turn it around here? He's getting himself in a very good position as he closes up behind into the draft of Weissert.
Now, because of how far spread out these guys are, Joe, I mean, anybody who's going to pit is going to lose a lap. I mean, you're only going to not lose that lap if you're within, say, 5-6 seconds, I think, of the leader. And right now, there's only one person that's in that category, and that's Michael Smith there in second position. So I think anybody else who's going to pit is probably going to lose a lap, and that could play in depending on how the cautions fall.
And Smith stays out. We're looking right now at Nicholas Hunt, though, trying to race down Ray Partridge down into turn 3. Partridge with a nice little martini nod to different type of open wheel racing, the Williams Formula One team. Being told that's not martini from... Oh, excuse me, it's Hunt with the martini scheme.
I was about to say, like, I know that martini scheme. I'm pretty sure that's martini.
Yeah, I was going to say that is the classic Martini Williams paint scheme that I'm seeing there. So,
yeah, I was confused as well, and I misheard our director, unfortunately. Well, Taft Baldwin still stays out. So does Michael Smith. I think these guys are trying to play it as safe as possible, not willing to try and duck in case a caution comes out. A little bit farther back, Mark Chubinski is sitting in third. Chubinski last pitted, lap 158. Certainly not going to make it from there. He's going to need one more. Smitty's last stop was 153. He's due.
yeah, I'm kind of curious about Brian Bennett there back in 17th position. He pitted right around 167, right just outside the window, but maybe enough to stretch it. He's sitting in 17th position, but he is in the lead lap. So as these guys ahead of him pit, and if he can keep it out there and not have to come back down pit road, that could end up with a nice top 5 for him.
Keep an eye on the number 71 of Brian Bennett, driving for the Northwest Club. We're now with less than 20 laps to go. Looking through the timing and scoring, trying to figure out the shape of our situation strategically. Ray Partridge now comes in for a stop. More cars behind him as well.
Taft Baldwin is pitting this time, your leader.
Here comes Baldwin. Can he make it clean? This is going to be one of the most important stops of the race for Taft. Gets in nice and clean. Now, I saw someone follow him in. Who is that?
It's like Jason Fleshley.
Yeah. So Fleischle, a lap down, follows our leader in. Baldwin into his stall, gets it on his marks clean.
Yeah, it doesn't make a mistake that we've seen several drivers make. That was a nice short pit stop, just enough fuel to get her to the end of the race, and he's back out again.
That's going to give the lead to Michael Smith, who also is going to need to come in very soon, but he stays out this time by. Michael Lane saying he's going to be pitting in soon. What about Daniel Johnson? When was Daniel Johnson's last pit stop? Also about 152, so Johnson due soon. Had our eye on Johnson since about halfway through the race when he surprised us by making his way back up to the front, proving he deserves to be up in this lead pack. Can he steal the win? He comes in for his stop. Oh! And what would have been a beautiful pirouette unfortunately ends with just a slight tap of the wall. That's going to cost a lot of time to Daniel Johnson. And and Smitty came in, but he missed his stall by quite a bit. In fact, he hit the wall, it looks like.
You know what, Joe? We talked about it, earlier in this race. This is a long race. They've been racing out here for 3 hours. I mean, this is the money stop. You got to be perfect, and mental stamina can play a factor in this. We're seeing a lot of people make mistakes on this last and crucial pit stop.
There you see the driver who has now inherited the lead, Mark Jabinski. Now, I'm pretty certain we saw Mark have to take a free repair earlier in the race, didn't we?
I believe we did.
His last stop came on 158.
Ooh, speaking of mental mistakes, I'm watching Smitty, and I think he released his pit limiter too early, and I believe we might see him get a penalty.
We'll find out soon if he comes in one more time. No, he stays out.
He stays. I swear he was before the end of pit road there, because I saw him speed up and then slow right back down again, but maybe he got away with one.
Mark Walls now into his pit. Richie Hearn has moved up into second place. His last stop was on lap 160. He can make it till about 10 to go or thereabouts. $15 left now. Jubinski is still your leader.
Oh, Michael Smith has pulled down into pit road, so I believe he did get that speeding penalty.
And knowing Smitty as well as I do at this point, I know he is going to be very angry with himself over that one. He was in such a good position for most of the race. This time he hits his marks right, and he's going to have to sit and wait.
For what is probably the longest 15 seconds he's ever had during this race.
Just feels like an eternity, I'm sure. There's Jubinski, our leader. Coming up onto some traffic, actually.
So just an update, looking at the pit stops, Taft Baldwin should be the first guy that can officially make it. Now, a couple of the guys in front of him, like Bob Beltrami, they're close. They're an impressive but maybe not impossible territory.
He's going to need quite a bit of a gap over Baldwin, I would think, to try and eke it out to the end, because he's not going to have pace to be able to hold Baldwin off. Now, Beltrami, who is he holding up behind there? That's Williams. These guys aren't teammates.
Well, I don't think he's holding up. I think he's just saying, I'm going to follow you. I'm going to put in 6th gear, engine map 7, and I'm going to try and make it to the...
Another driver. How many have we had now in the last 10 minutes that have made an error on entry?
It is amazing how many mistakes we've seen on the entry to pit lane in this last pit stop.
But yeah, I think that's exactly right there, James. That's what I was saying. I said holding up, but I guess it didn't come out right. I do believe that that's exactly what Bob Beltrami is doing. Now, I'm not sure that Williams is actually willingly trying to help him. It's just, he checks up. I think he checked up maybe a little bit. I think he doesn't want to be helping him out. He's trying to let him by, but Beltrami wants to just sit there and use every bit of the draft that he can.
I mean, if Beltrami's trying to stretch it, I mean, it was like 165.
And we saw on screen, Hearn misses his stall as well. Even the pros can make mistakes.
Absolutely.
Our leader currently, Rob Gall, who has inherited it from Jubinski. In fact, he hasn't officially led a lap yet.
Now, Rob Gall did pit 1 lap later than Bob Beltrami, who should be running here in 2nd place. And then Taft Baldwin is catching up to Bob Beltrami pretty significantly. Now, within only just a few seconds of the lead.
Actually, it looks like Nicholas Hunt is being scored in second place. He is right behind Rob Gall.
And Nick Hunt, his last time on pit road was
166.
Yep, so him and Rob Gall are on the exact same pit strategy currently.
And significantly, Nicholas Hunt is in the draft of Rob Gall. Oh, and the caution is out.
Oh.
Williams around. And Taft Baldwin, I think, has had his strategy ruined. He gets on the radio immediately expressing displeasure. And that was a solo. With a hard hit for Williams. A bad day with a bad end for David Williams, last season's champion. I think he was all by his lonesome really there. Yeah, we're going to see from on board the rear end just starts to come around on him, and he was not able to save it.
Well, hey guys, that was our strategy and everything that we were just talking about. Let's just go ahead and throw that all away. This is completely different now.
Yeah, I was actually just looking at Brian Bennett, and he was definitely on a fuel-saving strategy because I was watching him just lift a lot during the straightaways, so he was definitely trying to stretch it out, and I think that could have got him a top 5 for sure, but, well, hey, like you said there, James, everything's out the window now, and we'll have to see how this plays out for the last 5-lap shootout or so.
Now, is this going to be enough to extend the fuel for those that were trying to run it to the end and pit it in the mid-60s?
I think Brian Bennett, I'd be surprised if he comes down pit road because he was definitely saving, and this caution will help him out. So I think he's going to.
Rob
and
Gall
apparently I'm a liar.
Yeah, Rob Gall is in. Nick Hunt stays out. Bob Beltrami goes in.
Aha.
Yes, he feels he cannot make it.
Bennett faked out, so he did stay out.
I don't know about that because those couple tenths that you give up, it's definitely, he could for sure make it now. But with the tires, he's going to have a hard time holding off that 5 of Taft Baldwin.
And
Seen a lot of smoke on pit road.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that's Williams after his accident, though, actually, because he took a hard lick. Now, third place, Jimbo Pfeiffer. We were used to seeing him up at the front in these races, but when did he pit? He pitted 165. Is Pfeiffer trying to go to the end here?
It's very, very possible at this point. You could save a lot of fuel underneath the yellow.
So, Bud Weissert sitting in fourth. He pitted on lap 175. He very much can go to the end. And remember, Bud is a very fast driver. He started this race on the pole. Fastest car out there in qualifying. Does he have anything for Taft Baldwin? He and what we think is his teammate, have been working with one another all race long. We're 8 laps to go, though. Boy, this is going to be an exciting shootout up at the top.
Yeah, I think what we're going to see is we're probably going to see Taft rise to the top here. I mean, he has fresher tires. He doesn't have to worry about fuel. I think once we go to this restart, I think Taft is going to rise to the top here and probably run away with this, to be honest with you guys.
Jason Fleishley was given the wave around the pace car, but you have to feel for Jason. He's led the most laps, and I believe, yes, he will be the one that has led the most laps. Not that it means much other than just a stat. There's no points in it. And he's going to get back onto the lead lap. He's had a competitive car most of the day. It's just with him going to be down, I think, in about 21st position. It's a little bit too little, too late.
Now, actually, I'm thinking about Nick here at the front, and he stretched out the fuel. He should have enough now with this caution. Does not have as fresh of tires as Taft does behind him. But let's say we just go one lap, a caution happens. That'd probably be the end of the race. So this could end up being him stealing a win here, if it all plays out for him.
Which tells you that you're going to be seeing a very aggressive Baldwin, Pfeiffer, and Weissert behind him, I'm pretty sure. Don't forget Brian Bennett. He's back there in 5th, but can he make enough moves in so little time to try and get himself up to the front?
Well, Joe, this restart, this should be a good one.
Yes, lights are off on the pace car. Coming around turn 4. Nicholas Hunt going to lead the way. Hopefully we stay green to the end. Hopefully we get a good fight all the way to the checkers. Pace car peels off. Nicholas Hunt has to make the drive of his life. He accelerates away, gets a good jump on Taft Baldwin. Can Baldwin run him down in time in case there is a caution? Is it going to stay green? Baldwin already closing ground. Coming up to turn 2. He looks to the outside. He's not even going to wait. Actually, I think there was a little bit of contact through the corner, and that ruins his momentum. This is going to allow Jimbo Pfeiffer to get up behind him. None of them having to run on one another. Down into turn 3. Taft Baldwin slows it up.
Oh, Nick is playing this super defensively, as he has to for these last few laps, and trying to hold Taft off. He's doing a great job so far, but...
Oh, nothing
Taft
doing.
Baldwin,
There he goes.
Yeah, with the run off of turn 4. He's looking to the inside as they come across the line. Baldwin is going to lead the lap, coming into 1. What can Nicholas Hunt do? Can he fight back? What about Bud Weissert? He is dropping back just a little bit, about a half second back. He's got Jimbo Pfeiffer and Mark Walls all over him. Walls and Pfeiffer trading positions. Walls looking to the inside, down into 3, and that's going to move him up into 4th. Meanwhile, Nicholas Hunt doesn't seem to have an answer as he continues to drop off of Taft Baldwin. Bud Weissert is closing on him, but it might be that he doesn't have enough time. We've got 5 to go now. Weissert has to back out of it, almost gets into the wall.
That was close.
Walls with a beautiful evasive maneuver, but unfortunately that cost him a chance. These guys are dropping back quick. Taft Baldwin is running away with it. He's almost got a second lead ahead of Nicholas Hunt now. Oh, and D. Parker has put it into the wall. Can he get it off the track? D, don't bring out the caution. We still got 4 to go. Looks like he's going to get some clear track, and I think he's going to get it away with it. Meanwhile, battle for P3. Weissert has his hands full, and it looks like Mark Walls is going to take it, and he's got a lot of cars coming up behind very quick. That gap continues to extend. Now, exactly 1 second between Baldwin and Hunt. Walls closing in on our second place driver. Oh, and the caution is out.
Caution
That's
flies.
the race.
Toma is doing a dance in the corner right now.
Replay. I'm not sure who that is outside of him. Looks like there was just a little bit of contact.
Oh, just ran out of space there.
Yeah. Toma taking a long time to settle down. And Taft Baldwin, unless something drastic happens in this next lap or two, is going to have the win. And they're slowing up. I think, yeah, they're trying to let the pace car back through here. Two laps to go now here. So he's going to get the white flag this time by for Taft Baldwin. racing for the PMG team. He's been there or thereabouts the whole way. And even though he's going to win it under caution, James, I think we have to give full credit to Taft because he was running away with it before that yellow flew. It looked like nobody was going to gut him down.
Oh, very deserving as a win. He played the strategy correct. He had a fast car. Everything about this win. He was lucky and good today.
Takes both to take an Indy 500 win. He's only got to make 2.5 more miles, and he can say that he is an Indy 500 winner here in the Pacific Majors.
Well, Joe, I think we saw just about we saw it all here. We saw pit strategies playing in. We saw fuel mileage. We saw some great passing. Some unfortunate incidents, some driver errors take some drivers out. I think we got our money's worth here tonight.
We laughed, we cried, we had a good race. A lot of chatter going on between the drivers discussing how the race went, as well as the incident between Toma and I didn't quite see who else it was that he ran into there.
And assuming nothing changes here, who do we see there in fifth position with the top five? Brian Bennett with that fuel strategy and staying out and saving just enough fuel to make it to the end. That caution obviously helped, but definitely a great strategy play by him to get himself a top five.
Absolutely. You have to give credit to all of these drivers who finished up at the front. You can be back in the pack in the middle of the race. It doesn't really matter. All that matters is where you are when you come across the line after 200 laps. And as we have one more corner to go, working their way through the short chute, Taft Baldwin is going to come across first after 500 miles here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It might be behind the pace car, but I'm sure he's going to take whatever he can get for this win. Past the pit entry. A spare a thought for Nicholas Hunt came oh so close. But as the checkered flags come out, Taft Baldwin is going to be your winner here at the Indy 500 and the Volt Vapes Pacific Majors. Nicholas Hunt's going to come home in second. Mark Walls in third. Bud Weissert fourth. As you said, Brian Bennett rounds out the top five. We'll go through the full race results here in a moment. We're going to take a short break. We'll come back with driver interviews. Also on screen, you're going to see all of our upcoming races, so stick around. Welcome back to Indianapolis Motor Speedway here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We just watched the Pacific Majors Indy 500 brought to you by Volt Vapes, and the winner at the end was Taft Baldwin this year. Nicholas Hunt made a valiant effort through strategy, but unfortunately the caution did not come soon enough for him, and he finishes second. Mark Walls with a nice podium finish to get himself up to the front at the end of the race. Bud Weissert, it just wasn't meant to be. He started on pole, but he finished in fourth. Brian Bennett came home with a good top five, and Jimbo Pfeiffer surprised us at the end by getting himself in the mix and finishing in sixth. Wayne Hutchison starting in seventh, as well as Ray Partridge in eighth. Bob Beltrami, we were keeping an eye on him, see if he could make the strategy work. He came home in ninth. And then Trevor, we had Rob Gall rounding out the top 10.
Finishing out in 11th, we had Blake Reynolds, who spent a fair bit of time towards the front, finished in 11th position. Daniel Johnson, we talked about him a lot, managed to only finish in 12th. The strategy didn't quite play it for him. Richie Hearn finished in 13th position. Mark Jabinski finished in 14th. Mike Taylor in 15th. Brian Barnes finished in 16th position. Kyle Murphy, didn't talk a lot about him, although he did have a little bit of a stint towards the front, finished in 17th. Jason Fleshley, unfortunately, had some errors happen that made him finish in 18th position, still on the lead lap though. Gary Laviolette, I don't think we mentioned his name at all, finished in 19th, so a nice top 20 finish for him. And Michael Smith finished out the top 20 there, James.
In 21st, we have Drew Lalonde, and then D. Palmer behind him in 22nd. Ryan Tama in 23rd, and then Michael Lane 24th. And then we should have our first person that did not finish on the lead lap, and that will be David A. Williams in the one car. 26 goes to Michael B. Thomas. Mike Franklin finishes 27th. Ethan Moore, 28th. James Wyckoff in the 29th position. And Clark Archer, 30th, 88 laps down.
All right, so let's go to our interviews. First up, we're going to talk to our winner, and that, of course, as we said, was Taft Baldwin. I'm not sure if he's had time to hop over to his fridge during the break and maybe grab a little bit of milk, but I hope maybe he had at least some sort of celebration after that, because Taft, it was a nail biter. Were you at all worried about the fuel strategy guys maybe sneaking under you?
I actually hadn't really thought about it until I noticed that I was sitting in fourth and watched Nick and those guys still saving. And I was kind of wondering if they were going to pit. Doing the math in my head, I thought they had to, but I wasn't sure. After watching the real race this year, I didn't know.
Yeah, we were amazed at the similarities this race was having to the real world one. Now, Taft, you started in 10th, so you're top 10. You were still at least towards the front of the field. We saw you throughout most of the race. It seemed like you were up towards the front, and with your similar paint scheme, were you working alongside with Bud Weissert? Are you guys teammates of some sort?
I kind of wish I had Bud set up, but no, not at all. It's just a coincidence.
Oh, okay, interesting. We were confused by that all race when we looked at the teams with you being along with Chris Pence. Now, I'm trying to remember, have you won a race yet in the Pacific Majors, or is this your first?
This is my first pro win. I've won an AM race.
Wow. Congratulations. That has got to feel really good to make your first at Indianapolis.
It's very surprising. I was not expecting to run well here.
So the next race up, though, that's going to be a similar high downforce car, the Canadian Grand Prix and the McLaren. Are you expecting to do as well there, or do you think that's going to be a lot harder of a challenge?
You guys will be surprised if you see me in the pro split.
All right. That is Taft Baldwin, as we said, hopefully drinking some milk right now and finding himself maybe some flowers from the yard to make a wreath. How awesome. Our winner today in the Indianapolis 500. Next up, Trevor is going to talk to our second place finisher. It was oh so close for Nicholas Hunt. He tried to make it work on fuel strategy, but in the end, the caution didn't quite work out for him. Trevor?
Hey, Nick, congratulations on finishing second there. We were watching the fuel strategy go there. It was a great move. If only the caution had fallen a little bit sooner, but what led to that strategy play to try to stretch it out and get you almost a win here?
Well, just felt like that was my only chance, to have a good finish, and I was really hoping for the caution because it was really tight. I don't know if I would have made it that last lap. I was going to be out right around turn 4, I think. So the caution really did save me probably from losing a couple of spots. But anyway, it was a really good race, and I had a good time. And I want to give a big shout out to all the drivers because it was a really, really good race.
So it sounds like you were having a lot of fun out there, Nick. I mean, we watched you kind of in the mid-pack there, and then at the end with that fuel strategy, we were kind of right up at the front, and we were kind of wondering how that was going to play out. It's interesting to hear that it was so close on the fuel. Any other moments during that race? You sound like you had a lot of fun out there.
Oh, I did. I believe that, to me, this was the best race in the Pack Majors event, I believe. And with all the courteous driving and give and take and long green runs, it fit my driving style. I'm more of a cautious type driver and tend to do better on long green runs, and it kind of fit into my wheelhouse there, I guess you'd say. And but yeah, I was clutching it on the last pace lap to make it to the finish. I was that close.
Wow, that's amazing. We didn't realize it was that close. So now that you've got some open wheel experience here, with this second place finish, are we going to be seeing some good things out of you in Canada once we get into the McLaren?
Nah, I'm not going to guarantee anything on that. That'll be all new to me.
Fair enough. I know that is a challenging car to drive, but definitely congratulations on the second place finish. The strategy, give a high five to your crew chief on giving you that strategy to get you a second place finish.
Oh, I appreciate it. I really did have a good time. It was a really good race, I believe. Thank you all a lot.
Excellent. So that was our second place finisher, Nick Hunt, and I believe James has caught up with Mark Walls, our third place finisher.
I have caught up with Mark Walls here, and the number 18 car comes home with a podium finish here in the Indy 500 today, presented by Volt Vapes and the Pacific Majors. Mark, you were on a similar strategy there to Taft Baldwin, pitting around 186 there. How did you get into that position to come home with a podium finish here today?
Yeah, first off, man, this dog bear racing setup was just unbelievable. We could fight through traffic pretty easily. I actually missed the start of the race and started from the pits. A little bit of an issue there. And, man, it just cut through traffic. I was able to pretty much run full fuel runs and try to track down as much time as I could on the racetrack. So as soon as I saw a fuel window, I noticed I could stretch it and still gain a bunch of time. So the longer I ran, the slower those cars were out on the track.
Yeah, and especially with that late race caution there at the end, bunching everyone back up. Did you think that you had anything for the top two? And you also had Bud Weissert, who was really, really fast all race, and you were able to keep him behind you. How was the closing laps there with just a few laps to go?
Man, it was a blast. I think I restarted about 6th. I definitely had something for the first two. That caution came out a little bit too early. 2 laps ago, I was just setting up the pass for a second, and the caution came out, so kind of ran a little short. I think I had something for the leader. He ran a hell of a race. He was pretty quick. It's just that fuel mileage strategy definitely paid off.
Now, the next race, we are going to the Canadian GP, so you will be in the McLaren, another open-wheel car, but a completely different type of race. How do you feel for Canada?
I feel pretty good. I'm going to drive the pace car. I think that's pretty much my forte on the road course side. So I'm going to be back at Indy in the Cup car running strong. So we'll give the road course ringers a shot at it, and hopefully I can pace that field for them.
Well, we definitely look forward to seeing you back here on the next oval. But that was Mark Walls, your third place finisher here today in the Indy 500.
We have one more driver to talk to. 5th place finisher Brian Bennett. And we'll pull him in here and talk to him a little bit about how he was the highest finisher of the Alliance Racing team, a very stacked team, even on the oval side. But Brian, it seemed like you guys had a bit of an Andretti curse going on because everyone else around you in the team was just having the most horrible of luck.
I suppose mine was better because I caught a passing under the yellow flag when it was a legal restart. I saw the car 3 or 4 up get on it, and I got on it and made a couple passes, got a penalty, had to come into the pits, almost lost it, got 2 speeding penalties at the same time, and then I was a lap down. I got lucky and came back, and I just happened to be on turn 4 when I saw Jason have his incident. So it was I talked to him right away. Did he hit the wall? Yeah, it was some tough breaks out there, but I guess that's racing.
Yeah, I know the Alliance team from my talks with Jason. It seems like you guys do lots and lots of prep, especially for these oval races, getting the setup together. Did you guys spend a lot of time trying to tweak and get like a group setup, or was everybody kind of having their own way of running it?
I believe we had 2 different setups going, and then everybody tweaks it to their own liking. I worked 60 hours this week, and then in Seattle, that means I had 75 hours away from home between commuting and work, right? So I did 0 real testing and research on the set. I drove what Jason gave me, and I used one that he had about 3 versions ago, and I added some wicker that Ryan Toma had talked about to give me a little bit more grip, especially in the draft, and it worked for me. I got used to it and ran it. So obviously I owe my finish to those guys.
I was just going to say that makes it all the more impressive, the amount of hours that you've been away and not really been able to probably practice as much, and as well coming back from such a setback early in the race. I have to say that in that case, that 5th place is extremely commendable. Were you hoping for more?
Absolutely. With about 30 some odd laps to go, when I had my final pit stop, I looked at in my little calculator, and it said I was going to make the finish. So I thought, holy mac, I might run out on the last lap. I might have to nurse it. So I got in the draft, and I tried to find somebody to draft with to save fuel. And then it started to look worse, so I lifted a lot. But yeah, I was looking real good there for a while. I thought it might really come my way.
Commiserations then on not being able to get it up to the podium positions. But still, as we said, 5th place sounds like a great recovery. That was Brian Bennett, our 5th place finisher here in the Pack Majors Indianapolis 500, brought to you by Volt Vapes. With that, we are actually going to close up shop and thank a few people before we go. Obviously, a huge thank you to Volt Vapes. Again, if you are in the Boise, Idaho area, check out their physical location. They'd love to say hi there at the store, but they do have an online location at voltvapes.com, so give them a ring there. Thanks to Mike Willett, who is the organizer of the Pack Majors. He puts in so much work behind the scenes. We can't thank him enough for all that he does to make this thing go off. Thanks to the software and hardware that we use for our broadcast, and you can see those listed on your screen. Additional thanks to our musical contributors, Eric Ekholm and Casey Lalonde, whose music you can also find at the websites listed. Thanks to the team today, Trevor, James, Amjed, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com, along with archived races and upcoming broadcasts. We're also on Twitter at GSR Channel and Facebook at /Global Sim Racing Channel. I also want to say a special thank you to Bill Zahn for coming and giving us his beautiful voice there at the intro. Next race, that we've said it multiple times, but we want to remind you once again, that's going to be the Canadian Grand Prix. Boy, it is a challenging car to drive, that McLaren, and only the best of the best are going to come out on top on that one. It'll take a lot of practice. That'll be Sunday, June 26th at 8:45 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series on screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.